Hi, everyone. It is almost June, but we've had a cool stretch of weather, and the nectar has not been coming in quite as good as what we'd like to see at this time of the year. Nectar, typically from a lot of these late May, early June plants, prefer warmer and more humid conditions, but that's all right. We're hoping that we'll get a nice push towards the end of the honey flow and things will straighten back up. Hey, Jason, thanks for coming on. All right, people are starting to trickle in. Yes, you are in trouble now, Chris Medeiros and Chris Wright. All right, welcome. Got the Chris's, Chris and Jason. So apparently, with those two names, we're definitely getting a lot of guys in the 30-40 range um, to come on to our channel. That's Chris, but they've both been around a while. But to me, I grew up with a lot of Chris's and Jasons. Hey, Bearded Bee Works. All right. Alberta, 41. See, I have been saying this for a while. 30s and 40s, prime time, baby. You still got the energy to be able to get stuff done. Not quite as stupid as a 21-year-old. We hope. Uh, anyways, well, see, I'm not as stupid as I was at 21 because I got married when I was 22. And that's when all of a sudden I started getting straightened out. So, anyways, good to hear you all on the live chat today. California, all over the place. Hey, Tennessee, small waters and small woods. You're welcome for sharing Gus's live chat the other night. Gus has been a friend of mine for 14 years, and he has helped me several times. Actually, pretty much responsible for getting me to start using queen excluders and try a few other things. He's brought a few things to my attention and helped me find like my silver queen that I have to uncap my honey. He's the one that hooked me up with the guy that was selling that. So that was awesome. Very nice. Jason asked, do you have kids? Yes, I do. I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. Caught my 14th swarm of the year today. Somebody get Cody Walker and kick him out of the group. I tell you what, nobody likes to hear from a show off. I tell you, congratulations, Cody. That's impressive. Coleman Helm, what's the most helpful thing you've learned? So it's hard to say one thing. I feel like there's two things that are the most critical. And one is to understand mites and how to deal with them, and nutrition. And those two things I feel like are the most important. Many beekeepers don't understand how much food bees need, not only to overwinter, but how much they need prior to going into winter. So they'll keep a larger population. Also don't realize how much bees will pull back if they just have barely enough food. And you don't get enough winter bees. You might have 10 frames of bees in the hive in September, but you end up with a 3 frame cluster coming out of winter because the majority of those bees were old bees. We need plenty of nutrition and low mite loads so we have strong populations of young bees going into winter. So August, September, October, key months in most any part of North America. Definitely when it comes to mites, the alcohol wash has taught me more than anything. Doing my own alcohol washes. Hopefully, we'll get some better treatments. I've been talking to some companies lately. There's a product in development. They won't tell me what it is, but they're hoping it'll be available in the next year and a half. So hopefully it will be a good one. We could use it. Wisconsin, thanks for coming on, Anita. Michigan, all righty. So before we really get into the questions, I wanted to say for those of you who did not notice the video we released earlier today, the kid, or I should say the Young Beekeepers Sponsorship Program is now available. So if you know of a young man or lady who is between the age of 12 and 21, they can fill out that application, and they can send in a short YouTube video of why they like beekeeping, kind of their goals for the future, and they can get a full ride. And it's not just a free ticket. There's hotel reimbursement. Your parent or guardian gets a ride as well, and meals are included. So it's basically you just have to get yourself to the event, and then you're good to go. What we're looking for is those special young beekeepers who really want to make this something that they do for the rest of their life, and not on a professional level. That'd be great. But if they just want 5, 10 hives, that's fantastic too. I got into beekeeping from a guy that had a dozen hives, and that got me started. So we just want to find those young people who really want to learn and go to the next level, and we want to get them that experience. So I am going to leave a link down below. And if you know a young beekeeper who could take advantage of that and come to our Hive Life conference, then share that with them. You'll have to give me, actually, I'll probably just get Laurel to post it. She'll not goof it up. Cayman, those deeps are getting heavier. Are you going to come back to help me pull the honey? Absolutely not. I don't. My lower back wants nothing to do with any more deeps of honey than I already have to fool with. That's for sure. But I'm glad that your deeps are getting full of honey, and I'm hoping that we'll get a nice push with the sumac, basswood, and the late clover flows going over the next few weeks and finish this honey season for us in Tennessee good. It's been cool the last few days and rainy, so not a whole lot of weight gain the last week here in my area of Tennessee. Caught my 20th swarm 2 hours ago. See, Daryl, we need to boot him too. Another show off. I tell you, why is there so many show offs on this page? That's awesome. I don't know where you guys are located, but that is some swarm happy locations right there. Hello from the northern part of Norway, Varroa free place on Earth. Wow. Well, I have heard of stuff like that, but you are way up north. You don't have to maybe worry about Varroa. You just have to worry about everything under the sun freezing to death. So that's awesome. I would love to learn more about beekeeping up in that part of Norway. So I wonder, do you know of Etienne Tardif? He's up in the Yukon, north of the 60th parallel. So I think you say 68. Is that parallel, I imagine? So that would be interesting to see the correlation there between you guys. Very extreme beekeeping. Hmm. Question on making queens. Don't grasp the whole royal jelly and adding that to the queen cup. So, Bradley, great question. I actually don't take the time to do that. You don't have to do that. There's wet grafting and there's dry grafting. Wet grafting is when you use royal jelly or diluted royal jelly with some distilled water. You actually can take royal jelly and dilute it half part distilled water, half part royal jelly, and that will still work quite well for larvae. But you got to take time to produce it and all those things. I don't think that it's worth it. I just dry graft. The main thing that we want when we're grafting is to ensure the colony that we are grafting the larvae from has a lot of nutrition. If they have great nutrition, the larvae should be floating in small pools already, which makes it easy to dry graft, even though there's already jelly underneath them. And I don't see any difference really between using royal jelly and priming the cells via wet grafting versus the dry grafting method. Jason, thank you so much for donating tonight. And he said, I was able to requeen a hot hive, 2 deeps and 2 mediums. University of Florida's Dr. Jamie Ellis's technique. I assume they will calm down a little within a month. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time, a little bit more than a month if you just now requeen them, because of course it'll take if there was eggs in there when you requeen that hive, it'll take those bees 21 days to emerge, and then they'll be around for another 3-4 weeks depending on conditions. So it could be a good little while still, but yes, they should calm down before too long. And I'm actually not familiar with Dr. Jamie Ellis's technique. It probably is a good one. Jamie Ellis is a researcher that I really like, and I'm hoping one day to have him at our Hive Life conference. He's just been booked up all the time. High demand, short supply. So Laurel posted in the comments about the Young Beekeepers sponsorship application. You can go through that and send that to young beekeepers in your area if you think they are someone who would benefit from that. Hey, Cayman, when making the candy for queen cages, do you use anything other than powdered sugar and water? I actually don't use water, JB Goodman. I use powdered sugar, 2 pounds of it, and then I use 1 cup of my honey. If I don't have my honey, then I use Pro Sweet, excuse me, or some bee syrup like that. Don't buy the junk from the store. Don't buy honey from a weird source because if you do, you could be EFB can survive in honey. AFB can survive in honey. These could spread into your colonies, especially if you and not you get that into your bee system or a queen system and she starts laying some contaminated brood. Who knows? It's just best not to do that. But yeah, 2 pounds of powdered sugar to 1 cup of honey or like Pro Sweet or syrup like that. And you'll want to warm that syrup up or the honey to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it's nice and warm, it's a lot easier to mix in. And if you feel like it's a little runny, you can just add a little bit more powdered sugar. If it's a little bit hard, you can add a little bit more of the honey. However, I like my candy to where even if it's 90 degrees, it's not super pliable. It should, you can stick your fingernail in there and make an indention in it, but I don't want it to be runny because then that can run all over your queen. It's a little bit of an art form, but it's not too hard. In Delaware, I overwinter my hives as double deeps with a full honey super. They come out of winter loaded with bees. And those bees probably never experience, with that setup, any nutritional stress, which is really important. I mean, they do feel a slight, tiny bit of changes as there's a lack of nutrition out there, but that's normal. It's normal for our spring to just take the colonies and skyrocket up. But then when we hit dearths in the summer months or late summer, depending on your location, probably late summer for Delaware, the bees should naturally start to decline down, but it shouldn't be an extreme decline. And they will do that. If they run out of stores, you can take a 40, 50,000 population colony and they'll drop down to 15, 20,000 bees in a week. If it gets that desperate, they will just die off and do whatever they have to. It can be quite ugly. So this is something I'm drinking today. I'm not doing an ad for them. This stuff right here, this is a gift from a friend of mine. I do like kombucha, and this is with honey. So it's kombucha, but it's actually June or whatever when it has honey in it. However, this has basil in it too. Ooh, so good. This and let's see, it has ingredients: loose leaf green tea, raw local honey. Hey, culture, huh? Well, they definitely didn't get this from a bunch of young people because they have no culture except maybe bacteria. Holy basil, lavender, and rosemary. Yeah, when I drink this, I feel like I must get healthier because otherwise, what's the point? It's okay. It's okay. Hey, Cayman, new beekeeper. We're big fans of Laurel's videos. Hey, could you speak to the next 4 to 6 weeks of beekeeping regarding dearth and feeding? Right. Good question. And let me get to that here in just one second. I got a couple questions up above. I'll get back to those. I'll circle back, guys, here in just a second. This thing just jumps around on me, and sometimes I just get to the next question I see. So, 4 to 6 weeks of beekeeping in Tennessee, I'm assuming. Now, depending on the year, our dearth could start as early as 10 days or so from now here in Tennessee. If we had an early season, we're behind this year, not in a bad way. And I'm expecting things not to be really bad dearth wise for 3 weeks. We'll be in robbing season, I would say, maybe 4 weeks. So that's great because sometimes it'll be robbing season first, second week of June. So, anyways, whenever robbing season starts, everything gets more difficult. Bees are a little bit more chippy at not only you, but each other. and it's harder to introduce queens and make splits. You totally can do it, but you have to watch out for some things. The main thing that we must do is go into our colonies and see what they have. Some of our big colonies may have all kinds of resources, frames of bee bread, extra frames of honey. They're in good shape. Our splits that we made or our swarms that we caught may need a lot of feed still, and that's normal. Depending, if you caught the swarm in early April, mid-April, they may have fixed everything up just fine. But I caught a swarm, like a 10, 14 days ago, and they're drawing out foundation. And if they ran out of food right now, they'd probably starve within a week if I didn't feed them. They don't have any reserves. Everything's going into comb drawing and brood production. So when the dearth starts, it's all about management for going into winter. Summer, it's all about that keeping those bees healthy. And part of that is also monitoring mite loads. And that's one of the reasons I love the alcohol wash. I hate doing it, but just like how different colonies may need different amounts of feed or no feed, and you have to address that on an individual basis. Some colonies may need to be treated and some maybe don't need to be treated. But it's important that we treat those that have elevated mite loads. And what you find when you're doing a lot of alcohol washes, if you have a yard of 30, 40 colonies, you'll find that there's a handful that don't need any treatment at all, or maybe won't need it for a little while. And then you'll find some that need it now, and you'll find some that even after you've treated and all the rest of them are good, you'll have a handful that need it again because maybe you only got an 80% kill, but they were at a very high mite load. Were washing eights and tens. So now you dropped them down to 2.5, 3 or something like that percent infestation. And if we don't come back and check these things, then we can have those colonies build back up, crash and fall and reinfest the rest of our colonies. And maybe it doesn't cause them to crash, but it'll cause them to be weak during the winter months as the mites go from one bee to the next, consuming fat body tissue from the overwintering bees. So that is, we're always just going through colonies, mites, nutrition, queen issues. And this is where it really is nice to have several colonies. If you have 5 colonies, 10 colonies, hundreds, whatever it is, you look at some of these queens, you're going, wow, that's what we like to see. And you're seeing that out of hopefully several of them. But then when you have a couple of them that are like, I don't know what's going on, that's where new beekeepers sometimes struggle. And I've totally been there, is we want to give them a chance. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But a lot of times it's just the queens. And sometimes it's because they're old. Sometimes it's because they didn't get maybe mated properly, or maybe something else has happened. There's a lot of suspicions that some queens can get viruses from the Varroa mites. Not that the Varroa mites are injecting it into them per se, but that the rest of the colony has it, and they feed the queen, and that spreads it into her system, which then spreads it to her offspring and through the egg. And therefore, you end up with bad patterns. Bees can sense unhealthy larvae. So, whatever the reason is, one of the things that I found that has helped me keep my operation more sustainable is requeening those poor queens. And it's not fun to do, but those are the 3 things, great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition all summer long, baby. Okay. So I'm going to jump back up to a few of the questions I missed up above. All right. Hey, Tim Huffman. Good to see you from Florida. All right. So Arctic beekeeping from Norway, 68th parallel. Whoo, gosh. Your season just started a week ago. That means the snow just thawed, right? Or something like that. I need a better strategy for swarm suppression. I went from 7 to 21 hives and still had 6 of the 7 swarm. Any suggestions? Swarming is an issue for young beekeepers, uh, as far as new beekeepers or expanding beekeepers. This is why combs, we talk about how important they are. You got to understand that bees do want to swarm even when you have combs, but you can cut them back a little bit or requeen them or make a split with the old queen and then put a new queen in there. And you can have a technique or a plan. Like if I know that my bees really like to heavily swarm around late April, early May, which they do, I can go in there, cut them, pull them back, make a split, or I can yank the queen out and make a split and introduce a new queen in there. And they're very reluctant to swarm with the new queen. So there's techniques that we can do. Plus having all the combs, honeycombs that I have, and having extra brood crumbs, I can just put those in there and open up the brood nest. So we're attacking it in multiple different ways. This is something new beekeepers or fairly new beekeepers that don't have a lot of comb cannot do. And it is really an issue. In Tennessee, it's not legal for you to buy honeycombs or brood combs as they are. So in some states, it's totally legal to do that. In most states, it is. So Kentucky, it's that way. When I was in Iowa speaking with Bob Benny in November, there was a guy who literally had drawn honey supers and he was selling them at that conference for like, I don't know, 17, $18 a super. And a beekeeper with 3 hives could buy some. And now you have honeycomb. It's a precarious situation to be in. The best thing you can do now to prevent that for next year, Harley, is to draw combs as best you can. And you can do that by feeding your bees after the flow is done. And what you want to do as soon as your honey flow is done, try to identify that, pull any honey that you're going to pull, and then start feeding thin syrup. Doesn't even have to be 1 to 1, but feed, and get them to draw some more comb so you have that surplus for the next season. And I have some videos on that, and I will have probably more videos on that this year as well. Do you have any ideas what causes bees to abscond from a hive? Of course, viruses is one reason. Heat is another reason, or a lot of pressure, like small hive beetles. If they take a certain portion of the colony over, and there's just so much larvae and yeast in there, that will run them out too. But heat can cause bees to abscond as well. And I really get a little frustrated. Sometimes I see these new gizmos that come onto Facebook and whatnot, and they're not proven. And it'll be these things that you can do at home and have these little tiny entrances to reduce small hive beetles and all these things. And if you don't use them properly with the right amount of ventilation, then you can cause your hives to abscond on a really hot day because the colony just cannot maintain the temperature of the brood. And if they can't do that, they will abscond and find a better location where they can control that temperature. Hmm. All right, getting back to some more questions here. Seeing a bit of bald brood in some of my swarms, is this normal? If you're seeing a ton of it, it's not. Why could that be? Some swarms actually carry a lot of Varroa mites with them. A friend of mine out in California caught a swarm and treated it with oxalic acid before they capped the brood and sent me a picture of the sticky board underneath it that was had olive canola oil on it or whatever underneath. And they just stopped counting mites after like 700, 800 mites. There, it looked like there was 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 mites on that board. It was a lot. So if there is a lot of mites in those swarms, you can get that. There could also be some other issues as well, but there's something else going on there. You shouldn't have a lot of that. If you have, 2 or 3, 5, could just be where a small hive beetle or a wax moth was able to get a larvae underneath the brood and get back into some cells. But if you're seeing hundreds, there's an issue. And that would be a colony that I would probably give an alcohol wash to. So healthy. I have a Varroa Easy Check. It's designed to do powdered sugar, alcohol, and CO2. Thinking of doing a video on all 3 methods. Yeah, that would be awesome. If you do a video like that, Steve, send me a link to it if you don't mind. Um, and other than alcohol washes, just because I did sugar shakes in the past with the powdered sugar, and I just didn't like it. You just beat the bees to death. It might not kill them outright, but they don't live a long term, very long afterwards. It's kind of been studied on. So it's really not. You just give them all kinds of concussions and then release them back in the hive to have a shorter lifespan. But the CO2 method is fairly promising, and there's some information that I've gotten recently that that may be something coming soon, that better availability. Hmm. Yeah, you're right, Tim. Good nutrition is important for beekeepers' guts too. Okay, so I got a question from Todd Prater, and I have actually some of it right here. He says, Cayman, have you tried rocket fuel yet? And I have not. So I have some of it right here, and we'll see how it does. I call this Canadian rocket fuel. I haven't tried it yet, so maybe it won't live up to the hype, but you can see, well, you can kind of see there's a long list of ingredients, and I'm kind of excited. I don't get excited that much over products like this very much. And so I'm hoping that it ends up being really cool. We will find out. I've got enough to make about 500 gallons of syrup. My goal is to run 40 hives with and 40 hives without and see if there's a visible difference in the groups on how the colonies perform. Now, what this is supposed to do is this is supposed to go in your sugar syrup, and it is supposed to mimic nectar as best as they have been able to determine and mimic it. This There's not a lot of stuff in here. It's a very small amount. I don't know what the weight is, but gosh, it feels like it's probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of product. That may seem like it's not that much. However, there's not a lot of minerals and trace minerals and things in nectar by weight. There is a little bit though, and a little bit can really make all the difference in the world. It's kind of like, for those of you who don't know, when they made pollen patties like your Ultra B and several other types way back when, they were making some of it without zinc, and the amino acids weren't being absorbed properly. And they found just by adding one more thing made so much more of the proteins available. So it really does, these little things can make a huge difference. So the goal with this is just to help the bees have better gut and intestinal health, and keep the colony thriving. And it's based off of nectar, which is cool because most of the products that we have out there, like Honeybee Healthy, Pro Health, other liquid feeds, they're stimulants, but they're not based off of nutrition or really bee gut health at all. So we'll see if it works or not. Ian says it's rocket fuel, so we'll have to see. What Canadians use up there for rockets and what Tennesseans use for rockets is two very different things. So we usually use moonshine down here. Yeah, please shut them. Cayman, have you tried the New World Carnies for Queens? I have tried some, and they're a good bee. I wouldn't say that they're the only good bee out there, but I've been pleased with trying out some New World Carnies. I tried to think like a bee. I was, oh, okay. I see what you're doing there. Okay, okay. Cayman, have you noticed fewer swarms than from years past? Yes, there is less swarms this year than what I've seen in the last year or so, but we had a terrible fall flow here in Tennessee. And I really think that contributed to that. Bees in the wild or in other beekeepers' hives just didn't have the same level of nutrition. Clusters were smaller, and more colonies didn't make it through the winter. So you really base swarm season off of prior year's conditions. And it really wasn't too big of a shock. And yes, I've seen less swarms this year, and I expected that, and it's so far held to be true. Great questions on Cayman. Is a rocket fuel being introduced into the Apame test yard? Updates on it. Will you use the rocket fuel in your test yard? Are you still doing the test yard? Yes, absolutely. And I'm actually working on a video right now on that. We've already started this year on this next round of experiments and tests. I actually will not be testing this in the experimental yard. This will actually be in our, as far as this product, this will be in just regular honey production yards, normal hives that I run for my operation, and I'll just feed half with and half without. So I'll do 20 with, 20 without in one yard, then I'll do another yard 20 with, 20 without, and see how that goes. But the test yard this year will be focused just exclusively on treatments again. It will be we've been approved for the oxalic acid sponges, and thank goodness I have help this year. Um, they're actually supposed to be coming in just, I think, about 5 to 7 days. Let's see, the 28th. So um, looks like the 6th. And they're going to come up here and take some data for me. So I actually won't have, all I have to do is maintain the bees now. That's going to really help me out a lot. Kamon, are you going to use Apogard for mites this summer? Hang on 1 second. Yes, I am. This is not even all of it. So those are some pretty big tubs of Apogard. They come with these cards, and then they come with syringes, 1 syringe per tub. And I believe one of those tubs will do around 30-ish colonies. Like, I could be wrong on that, but I'm thinking it's 30, 33 colonies. And I do like Apogard. I don't like using it on little colonies, but for good, healthy colonies, it does really well for me. But yes, I do like Apogard as one of the products that I use on a regular basis. Oxalic acid in winter, Apogard in the summer, and sometimes I'll mix it up with something else. There for a while, I was using Apovar. Don't trust that product anymore. Cayman, what's the best way to treat for mites in a horizontal hive? Seems like more of a headache to remove frames than a whole super, so a treatment legal for supers on seems best. Well, what I would do if I was you, Andrew, is I would cut a board. Let's say that, I don't know. I mean, you can pull those frames out, but you say it's a headache. Why not put a follower board in there that will cut off temporarily all the rest of the horizontal hive? This will actually make your treatment more effective because it's concentrated in the brood area. But yeah, you don't want to treat with your honey supers on or your honey frames. So if you're not going to pull them out, stick a follower board in there. And if there's an inner cover or whatever you use, make sure it's sealed off good and then treat. So that's what I would do. Um, my horizontal hive is kicking butt. I would say there's at least 5 gallons of capped honey in there right now. Excuse me. And last year we used Apogard. We actually have 3 different videos on applying this. We did the alcohol wash, and then we applied this once, came back the next week, applied it again, came back the third time on the third week and applied it again. And then came back after that and did the conclusion video where we took an alcohol wash and we reduced them down from, I think, being a 1.8, if I remember right, 1.7% mite infestation down to, we didn't even, maybe we washed 1 mite or 0 mites. It was extremely low. And then in winter, we came back and did an oxalic acid treatment 2 different times. And that colony, gosh, I cannot hardly keep those bees from swarming. There's so many bees in that hive. So that's how I ran my horizontal hive. And it's really not that different from a Langstroth hive. There are some differences for sure, but it's really not as extreme as what some people make it out to be. I mean, there's still bees in there. What about formic acid? So formic acid can be used down here, but it's really hard to use it this time of the year. Many times we can be in the 90s, but it is possible. If you use it from, usually you can get a treatment in May with it and April. So if you want to use it as an early season treatment, then formic acid is great. But if you're trying to use it in June, July, and August, it's usually not a viable option. It's too hot. And if you wait till maybe a cool stretch in September, if you're lucky, or October, by then the mites have already done their damage. So it is a good tool, but you have to use it appropriately. And it is very temperature sensitive. I followed your recipe for the pollen patties, but they turned rock hard. What did I do wrong? Well, if you leave them to where they can get a lot of air, then they will dry out. Only the patties that we have that have syrup in them will not dry out over time. If you cover them and seal them in like a Ziploc bag or something like that, they will, and put them in the fridge or the freezer. They'll have a great consistency for just about as long as you'd like them. But yeah, if they're left in the um, if the bees don't eat them quickly, if they're left to where the air can get to them, they will dry out. Have you ever thought about doing a nucleus versus package challenge using different breeds of bees? I've thought about a lot of things like that, Shane. And the problem is I need to stop thinking about so much of that because I get in over my head, like I already have several times and am right now. And I wanted to be able to do all of these things, but the problem is my ambition is usually way runs way past my actual capabilities. And especially now that Laurel's homeschooling both of our kids, and I help with that to a small degree, but she does most of it. I find myself more and more doing a lot of the beekeeping by myself, which is fine. But it does limit me, and this conference is taking up a ton of time. By the way, the conference signups will be available just here in a handful of days. Early bird signups. First 4 weeks there will be a discount, and after that they'll go up just a little bit, but not a whole lot. So be watching out for that. HiveLifeConference.com. And so we're working on that, managing that. I literally have talked to almost every company that you can think of and companies you've never heard of. So it's exciting. A lot of them are coming. I got about 50. No, I have 53 companies now that have verbally committed to coming to our conference in 2023, and a whole lot more that are just waiting. So I think there's a good chance we'll have around 70 or more vendors at our next conference. So what's this rocket fuel you speak of? So yeah, it is just a feed stimulant. It's made in Canada. I talked to the designer and owner, and they've been testing it up there. One of the things I like about it the most is they don't come out with all of this crazy claims like a lot of the companies do and say it's going to do this for you, it's going to do that for you. They basically designed this to mimic nectar as much as possible. Some of the acids and the let me see if I can pronounce these $10 words: phytohormone profiles, the phenolic profiles, the lots of different natural acids and trace minerals and things like that. So basically, their goal is to apiary performance and disease management through improved nutrition. So they're not trying to create something that doesn't already exist. They're trying to mimic what already exists, which is one of the reasons I like the idea behind it. Where a lot of these like lemongrass stimulants for our sugar syrup, there's no lemongrass essential oil in those things. There's no this, or that. So, and nutritionally speaking, there's no proof that it's beneficial. It actually may be actually bad for our bees' guts because some essential oils are extremely good at killing bacteria. And bees have a lot of gut bacteria as well. Makes you wonder, but this stuff's supposed to be a little bit better. We'll see. I have no clue. But it is nice to see some products that are based off of nutrition and not just, hey, there's an essential oil craze. Let's create something that has an essential oil in it and say it's good for bees. Woohoo. A lot of that out there. Hey, Tim Huffman. Thanks for the comment on our queen rearing videos. And he said that your playlists are super helpful. Thanks for reminding me about that. For those of you who don't know, you can go to our main page and you hit a playlist and you can see videos. We have 500 videos. So it's hard to find sometimes what you need. So you can go to the playlist, and if you want to see something about an interview I did with Michael Palmer, or a video on small hive beetles, or this, or that, you can go to the playlist and find what I do have. It doesn't have all 500 videos in there, but it has the ones that I feel like are most helpful for those specific topics. But Tim, uh, thanks for saying that, and thanks for watching our videos, and hope things are going good down there in Florida for you. You've been around and watching our channel since its inception and back in 2019. So I appreciate you being such a long lasting yeah, putting up with me this long, basically, Tim. Thanks. So Thomas asks, hi, at the Hive Life conference, there was a supplier who had a hood with a solid clear panel. Do you remember who that supplier was? Old eyes having trouble seeing eggs. Good question, Thomas, but I will add something to it. So that was a product called the Easy C. And they came to our conference, and basically what you do is you cut out some of your veil and you put this panel in so you can see through it. The concept is good, but the delivery is not so good. And I know people who have used them and they don't really like them that well. There's some issues. You can fog them up. They also, what if you sneeze? Then it goes all over that and you got to wipe it out. Gross, right? Yeah, yeah. Also, it makes it hotter. There was a couple other reasons they said it did not work, and they can scratch up. But ultimately, everyone that I've talked to said it didn't really work good. So that's an issue. Now, there might be some people who say it's awesome, but when I looked at it, I just don't think I'm going to be cutting into my veils. I'm doing that. If you're wanting an easier to see veil, you're kind of out of luck. There's not a good bee suit that I know of that has a great veil. It's really sad and it's stupid. Anyone who wants to create the ultimate bee veil out there on something that actually works and is functional, I think there's good opportunities for you. It's going to take a lot of work, but someone needs to do it. Hmm. I understand I'm going to have to cut back on my hives. I got 23, but that's too much because the way my back is, I'm not getting to them like I should, like you should be. Well, Wade, and that I hate that for you, but yeah, don't mess up your back over honeybees. And there's an old saying. I remember reading this when I was a teenager and scoffing and saying that will never be me one of these days. And well, young people say a lot of stupid stuff. But this old saying is there are two types of beekeepers that have bad backs and beekeepers that are going to have bad backs. However, we want you guys to be smart and take care of your back because you only got one of those and you can't buy those. But yeah, you got, and also keep it fun too. Don't overextend yourself on going for gaudy beehive numbers that you can't manage. It'd be better to run 10 hives and have fun and manage them well than to try to run 20 to 30 and your bees aren't getting the attention they need. You lose bees. You got all that inventory and equipment and all that feed or whatever else you've put into them. And then you end up losing. You're down to 10 hives anyways because you couldn't manage them. So definitely keep it in the manageable range. Oh my goodness. So I want to say a huge thank you to Mary Ann and Larry Sears. They just donated $500 to the Hive Life Youth Sponsorship. So that's for the kid program. And I got to say a big thank you more than just that because they came last year to our conference in January and they brought a lot of stuff to the silent auction. They make a lot of um, different things. They had all kinds of different things. Cutting boards. He does a lot of carpentry, and I think Marianne made some stuff as well. There was several things. Regardless, I think they raised around five. $600 in the silent auction. They brought so much stuff. And 100% of the silent auction always goes to the kid program and will continue to do so. So that they're sponsoring several kids, and we just appreciate them so much. Our goal with that, and just so you know, this isn't going to be one of those government programs where the money just gets thrown at these things. I imagine with what we're getting right now, we'll probably end up with 75 to 150 kids that will enter. And so they will have to do a YouTube video, show us how they're interested in bees, why they want to keep bees, and we will be doing it based on who we think will take the most advantage of it, because we want to help them continue to stay in beekeeping and do well. So thank you so much to Larry and Mary Ann Sears. That is so generous. Humble Adventurer, thank you so much. Coming all the way from London. I am from Brazil. Been keeping bees for years, but I got more professional after watching your videos. Thanks. I have 10 colonies at an allotment in central London. Good deal. And thanks for letting us know. And we hope that our videos help. It's not just us, there's a beekeeping community out there. And I hope that you may be watching some of my friends on YouTube as well, like Bob Benny and some of the others. And Richard Noel's in France, and there's Ian and so many other good beekeepers on YouTube. And I love seeing so many good videos. When I got into beekeeping and was watching YouTube, there was none of these options like there is now. So thank you so much for saying that and for your donation. That's awesome. And keep me posted on how things go for you. I bet in London there's a lot of opportunity to sell premium honey. I'm sure. Shane Williams, how many hives do you have now, and have you quit selling your queens? So we're not quite down to 200, but I want to get down to 200 hives, Shane. And I want to do that because I'm at the point between the conference and everything else that we're doing, I can't manage 400 plus hives like we were. So we're going to drop it down a little bit. And I've quit selling queens because we've had to focus on other avenues. I just don't have time. Queens are the least profitable of the things that we do. Nukes are more profitable. Honey's more profitable. Queens, they just take a lot of time and resources, and you can make money raising queens. But we had to give something up in order to do the conference and really focus on YouTube. I'm not even doing YouTube to the extent that I could be doing it, and just due to a lack of time. And so that the queens just had to go. So the only queens that you can get from us is if you buy a nuke from us, and that's it. Steve Chubb, yes, Laurel did get her microscope. Man, I can't say anything today. And yes, she absolutely loves it, and we are looking forward to using that as time allows. And she's been putting all kinds of different things underneath it, other types of bugs as well, not just honeybee related stuff. That's what I'll be using it for bees and probably bees alone. Laurel will use it for all kinds of stuff. She's a scientist at heart for sure. By the way, Jason, this company is planning on coming to our conference. So this is the kind of stuff that we're trying to get at our conference, is unique products that could be great or not, and just make it more available because it comes all the way from Canada. So maybe if we can get a lot of it down here, it'll be a little bit more affordable for the average person. Mm. Oh yeah, so good. Going through the questions. Laurel did a good job of cleaning you up tonight. Yep, she did. I actually did all the work, but she's just the one that puts her foot down and says, "Okay, too scruffy." Here we are. Hey, Castle Hives, thanks for hopping on. Oh, there it jumped again. Question: I'm in southeastern Kentucky. How late can I make splits? I bought one package and made a 2-frame split already, and they're doing great. Well, Jason, that's fantastic. Make sure that you watch their feed levels, though. Even though there's a honey flow going on right now, it could dry up for a period. You get all this rainy weather and these cool days, a little bit of feed, they might benefit from it quite a bit. But you can make splits for a little ways out. Typically, Jason, I don't like to do anything later than early July. You can do it later than that, but the dearth makes it a little bit harder. And you want your bees to go into the fall flow with a good population. June's a good month for splits. Early July would be okay. It depends on how you're making them. If you're putting a laying queen in there, then yeah, early July is pretty good. I don't like going much later than that. But then if you're talking letting them raise their own queens or something like that, I wouldn't do anything like that after July for sure. It just takes so long for that whole process, and the colonies get so weak waiting for that new queen to come back and get her brood to start going and all that stuff. All that stuff. Is there an ideal time to treat with Apogard? Well, you can't use it with honey supers on, but once the treatment is done, so let's say you apply it Monday, you can come back probably, well, whenever the treatment period they say for it to be done. However, mm, this is where it's a little bit interesting. So I typically do mine for like a 7-day period. The bees will pull that stuff typically if it's a strong colony within 7 days, they'll take all the gel and they'll yank it out of the colony and spread it around. It'll kill mites and all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. Once you remove the tray or the piece of paper that you have it on, if they've pulled all the Apogard gel off of it, just pull out the tray and stuff. And as soon as you do that, within 24 hours of doing that, you can put your honey supers on. That's the legal rules for that. So that's a little tidbit there. As far as when is it best to use it, as soon as the honey flow's done, you can't use it with honey supers on. But what I would do is yank the honey supers on and then apply it right away, as soon as you can. Keep those mites low. The best way to control Varroa mites is to never let them get to elevated levels. Kill them when they're light. No product will get you 100% kill, and some will only give you maybe an average of 80 odd percent. So 80% of 1% knocks them back under safe levels. We don't want our mites really getting above 2% at the highest. And going into winter, they better not be 2%. It'd be better if they were 1% or lower. So keeping them at that low level, it makes it easier to control them. You get an 80% knockback with a 6% infestation, then yeah, it knocks them back and buys you some time, but you need to treat again. So it's all about control. It's like Yoda, control, control. You must learn control. I didn't want to do Yoda's voice. I'd butcher it. But seriously, though, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But the beekeepers that are really good at keeping their bees alive and selling other people bees are the ones that stay on top of this. Hmm. Hey, Kamon, can you explain your method of feeding to breed queens after pulling honey supers during a dearth? Thanks. Good question, Brad. So it's all about raising queens is all about mimicking, just like every good thing in beekeeping. It's all about mimicking to the best of our ability. This feed stuff right here, I like it because it's all about mimicking too. We'll see if it actually mimics though. When we're trying to mimic ideal queen conditions, we want tons of dense young bees, tons of them, because it's like swarm-like conditions. And it also takes a lot of young bees to make that royal jelly. So we have to have the potential there, and that comes from that dense young nurse bee population. Now, if at all possible, we need frames of bee bread in the dearth because we don't have natural pollen. So those frames of bee bread are gold for raising queens and really help. And even when we have those, we are going to feed pollen patties as well. And the better the pollen patty, the better. We trap pollen. I haven't really had time to do any videos this year, but I have some pollen trapping videos from last year where we use the Apame pollen traps, and you can collect your own pollen from your own bees and save that. Hang on. So here's some pollen right here. And so you can kind of see that. And you can take that, mix it into a pollen patty, and make it even more nutritious. So saving back stuff from the spring. That's what I do. That's what Michael Palmer does. Several guys do that. They'll save that nutrition from the pollen and mix that into a pollen patty. So we're going to feed that for sure. Now, let me grab one more thing. I mean, my office just is just all bee stuff. It's unreal. Oh my goodness. My long suffering wife. Now, what I have right here, oh, those are nice and sticky. This is a global patty mixed with some Hive Alive. You can smell a little bit of the Hive Alive supplement in there. And they sent this to me to try out. And when I've got enough back there, what I'm going to do is stick these in next to some of my Ultra Bee pre-made pollen patties. And I'm going to test and see within like 3 days. And then I'm going to come back in 5, 7 days and see which one gets consumed the quickest. Now, I tried it out in spring, but in spring, everything looks good. So be careful making assessments and also listening to assessments. When someone tells you this, oh, this honeybee healthy is just making my bees in April grow so fast. It's such a great product. Everything looks good in April typically, at least in the South, because you have natural pollens and flows. You have natural probiotics coming in. So be careful when you listen to some people, including YouTubers, because everything's easy in spring. If you want to know how good a supplement works, try it out in a dearth period, robbing season. Is it making your bees healthy and grow good then? That's where you can find stuff out. But I'll be testing these things out and seeing how well they work. And ultimately, what I need to know, because we have small hive beetles here, is the Ultra Bee patties the best, or are these in regards to consumption? Now, my spring tests, which, well, it was actually late winter, but it was in March. We were putting some of these on an Ultra Bee, and I noticed at that point that these were getting eaten by the bees a lot faster than my Ultra Bee patties. So that's big. I would prefer getting these. However, now we're coming down to costs. And to get global patties or Hive Alive patties, there's a company right now selling Hive Alive patties for almost $5 a pound. I can't afford that. So, there, what I would do to try to save as much money as possible is I would mix my own pollen patties. We have a playlist that has several different ways of doing that and mix pollen in there. But that's basically what we do. I know that was a long way to answer your question, but it's raising queens is almost always the mistakes are on the not enough bees, not enough nutrition side. We're also going to feed them thin syrup. That's important as well. Real thin syrup, no nutritional stress. And then the grafting sometimes is the mistake, or maybe throwing a queen in there or something. But typically it's nutrition and brood bee density. All right, nice and sticky. Fantastic. How am I going to use this mouse now? Oh, hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Shane. I appreciate that very much. And thank you. Thanks for the knowledge. He says, God bless the caveman. You know what? That is one nickname that has started to stick a little bit. And I don't know why. Do I look like a caveman to you? But it's all good. I've been called a lot of worse things in my life, and we do really appreciate the donation, Shane, very much. And Smitty's chainsaws and firewood, thanks again for coming on and donating. Love the content. He says, very well done. Have a great weekend. Thanks. Well, I have some water right here I was supposed to drink. Hey, Laurel, are you out there? Here she comes. Could you get me like a little bowl with some water in it? My hands are all sticky. And I don't want to waste this good spring water right here. Okay, Laurel actually put uh-oh. What did I do? That's what happens when you're scrolling with your knuckles. Laurel put a link down there for the Apame pollen trap in the comments. I think it's the best pollen trap on the market. I've tried a few different models. I like it. It's washable. I mean, it's a great bottom board too, because a lot of the pollen traps out there, that's all they are. They're a pollen trap. This thing's a great bottom board as well. Screen bottom board. You can seal it off and make it a solid bottom board. I like their bottom board pollen trap. Are there certain pollens that bees won't eat? Bees during a dearth will almost eat any type. Well, they'll bring in any type of pollen, but there's actually pollens out there. Thank you, Laurel, that are bad for bees, like buckeye. There's sometimes they'll bring what looks like pollen, and it's like actually rust off of like either cedar or plants. It's just a type of rust. And for those of you who've kept bees a while, you'll see bees going after like chicken feed and corn flour, all kinds of different things. And all right, hang on, I'll get to that here in a second. And you'll also see where they are going after just all corn flour, corn, yeah, corn flour if you set it out, or they'll go after corn pollen. There's some pollens that literally have nothing good for bees. And what you'll find out if you do a lot of research is everyone talks about dandelions. Oh, dandelions. And they're great, but by themselves, they're not great. Dandelion pollen by itself cannot raise a healthy bee. So in spring, if it was just dandelion pollen alone, the bees cannot raise brood. You have to have balanced nutrition. Some pollens by themselves, like maple pollen, you can raise great bees just off of maple pollen. So not all pollens are created equal. Understand that. Same way with nectars and so many things. Beekeeping is complicated, and we really don't know as much about some of these things as I would like. Can you recommend David Burns' beekeeping educational series? It costs a bit, so I was hoping you knew about them. I do know of David Burns, and he's supposed to be a master beekeeper. Some people do like him. I haven't watched a lot of his content, to be honest. So I would really be um, a poor person to even make a judgment on that. And I haven't seen his educational series. It may be good, it may not. I really don't know. Sorry, I really just haven't a clue, and I would hate to say otherwise. But I haven't heard anything bad about David Burns, so that's good, I suppose. Steve Chubb says this year has been a month behind from other years. Is this what is happening in all of you guys and gals area? I think it's happening in a lot of areas, Steve. I don't know if it's happening everywhere, but I know in Tennessee we're a good 3 to 4 weeks behind on some things. I know up north, several of them are behind as well. But I actually kind of like that. I hate hot days in May. I hate 90s. Mm, mm-mm. Kamon, speaking of the Apame, have you ever used the Apame Langstroth Hive upgrade kit? If so, how do you like it? So they did send me one of those, and I mean, it works good as far as it does what it's supposed to. You get a lid that's insulated, you get the feeders, and you get that bottom board with the pollen trap. That's the main thing I like. I like the bottom board, I like the pollen trap. The lid does keep your hive cooler because it's insulated and it's white. The feeders do work well, but I really don't like those types of feeders. It's not just theirs. There's other types of top feeders. Some beekeepers love those. I hate having to yank them off every time I get into the colony. So my favorite feeders are frame feeders. And I've got actually a company coming to the conference that should have bulk pricing on frame feeders this year, some really nice ones, but we'll get into that some other time. However, the frame feeders do work. And the feeders that Apame has does work really good. Is it worth the price? You'll have to determine that for yourself. But I do love the bottom boards and all of that. Um, they're good lids, and I think their lids are going to last a long time. I think they're made well. I actually was sent from a company called Anel, their insulative hive, and it is cheaper than Apame. However, it is cheaper built, and it's not bad. But the Apame quality is really good. I do like the quality and the gadgets they put into the Apame. They don't really put a lot of stupid stuff into Apame equipment. The biggest complaint I have against Apame equipment is really nothing that they can control is the price. Plastic has gone really high on food grade plastic, and So they've had to raise their price, so it's expensive, but it is a good product. But if I was going to try something with Apame out, I'd try their pollen trap first, and I think they're like $55 if I remember right. If you're into that kind of thing, and then if you like that, maybe go from there. David Burns is long-winded. Well, Frank, I don't know if I can say much about that too. I've been accused of being a little long-winded myself. I try not to be, but I'm just not so good at it. Kamon, have you ever tried a brood break for Varroa mites? Oh, okay, fantastic. Hey, Laurel, can you help me out again, please? Do you know where the link is for the oxalic acid that we did in the experimental yard? I had that page up. It's the oxalic acid research page that we had for the test yard. I think it's a Google document. Yeah, but I just don't know how to access it. Yeah, just let me know when you get it though. So, anyways, the question was, have you ever tried a brood break for Varroa mites? We did actually last year's research yard. We did that, and we found that man, I didn't like it, but we could have done it a little bit differently. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 58% effective on controlling varroa mites. What we did is a brood break, but then we did an oxalic acid treatment. You're talking about just a brood break for varroa mites. I don't like just doing a brood break for varroa mites. Does it help some? Yes. Is it enough? I don't think so. And also, you're losing all kinds of momentum. And brood breaks, you have to be careful. By the time we got around to doing our tests, it was August and early September. And when you do a brood break in August and September, does it retard Varroa and help control them? Sure. Does it also make it very difficult for your bees to build back up and get a big population for winter and a nice cluster size? Absolutely. So if I was going to do something like a brood break, I would want to do it honestly, during a flow or something like that, or when I knew a flow was going to be coming, that was a good one. So the bees can build up off of that. Because if the bees get reduced down in size because of that brood break, if we don't have a good fall flow, which is what happened to us last year, we had almost no fall flow. We can feed all we want and we can give them pollen patties, but it's not the same as a real flow. So we had a really difficult time getting those 13 colonies in the brood break trial to build back up and overwinter healthily. Um, Brood breaks can help, but you have to be really careful. And it's a lot of work. Honestly, if the bees are healthy, I would just use some of this stuff and use it smart. Apogard. Hey, Steve Chubb, thank you so much for helping us yet again. Keep everything going, and God bless you as well, Steve. And I hope you're having a good bee year, and thanks for being a part of our community so much. Have a good night, Steve. Oh, Byron Ferris is in the house. You know what? I was actually talking about you, Byron, the other day. Someone was talking about if why Lysin was so good, and I said, well, they have a really good creaming unit, and one of my buddies he runs it and he does a pretty good job. And I complimented you for the first time I think ever. It really, I just it took all of the energy in my body just to be able to compliment you, but I managed it. All right, so this man asks, can you recommend a frame feeder that doesn't drown the bees? I have one that works well with inner structure and an open top that drowns hundreds of bees. Help. All right, I'll get to that in just 1 second. Laurel is posting. Here we go. All right, so Laurel just posted a link to the test yard for the oxalic acid group. And you can read that and see that and how effective the brood break with the oxalic acid was. And it was not near as effective as we thought it was. And I talked to the University of Florida, Cameron Jack, who works closely with Jamie Ellis down there, and they are some of the leading researchers in our country for oxalic acid. And when I told them, "Hey, I'm really surprised it was this ineffective," they were not shocked at all. They're like, "Yeah, that's what we've been seeing as we've been testing. Oxalic acid is a soft, gentle treatment on the bees, but also on the mites." And so they're recommending, 4 grams of oxalic acid to the EPA to try to get approval. That per colony, you would get 4 grams. Actually, I think it's 4 grams per deep. So it'd be like 8 grams, but 4 grams as like a minimum dose for a good sized colony. And we did 2 grams. So that was half of that. And we got like 58%. But you can look at that link. And if you have any questions about that, you can leave those down below. All right, so getting back to that frame feeder. Now, I'm going to have to kind of paint a whole picture. I remember when I got into beekeeping and I purchased multiple types of frame feeders, top feeders, jar feeders, all those things, because you just don't know. That's what our YouTube channel is trying to fix, is get people some information out there on products. But what we also have to realize is bees die. And I don't want them to die, but at the same time, they're going to. And also, some tools, if they're used right, in the right conditions, work really good, and otherwise they don't. So when I first got a frame feeder, I put it in with my first packages, and I killed probably 500 to 1,000 bees in my first feeding with the frame feeder. I was like, "What in the world's going on?" When you get a package of bees, though, they're not locked in. They're running all over the place. They're not used to that queen. They don't have any brood. And that means, and the queen's not laying. So when the queen's not laying and there's no brood, that means they're missing a ton of pheromones that help them lock into that colony. Bees that don't have a queen, if you've seen it enough, you know instantly that this hive's queenless or has a virgin or something. They're not locked in correctly. Those type of bees will drown. Sick bees also drown. And there's other conditions as well. If there's a bunch of, like if you have a cap and ladder feeder, which is where you have the wood board and you have the 2 woven tubes that go down, and there's a bunch of bees down in there, and then you fill that up, you can drown bees like that. I don't like cap and ladder. Some people do. It's not that they don't work, but I prefer just having an open feeder, a healthy bee. And I've shown this in my videos. You can see some. I've had bees like a frame feeder like this, and there'll be one stuck to the bottom inner wall, and you'll fill it up full of 1-to-1 syrup that's probably around 90 degrees, thereabouts. And that bee won't even let go of that wall. They'll just start filling their honey crop full of syrup. And then whenever they fill up, they'll let go, float to the top, crawl right on out. Healthy bees can crawl out of frame feeders, no problem. Where you run into issues is when you put it into a swarm or a package that does not have the bees locked in, or you're pouring cold syrup onto the bees, or something's wrong with the colony. That's just all there is to it. I love frame feeders for the fact that when I see dead bees in colonies, I know there's something wrong with that colony because of the frame feeder. So that's an indicator I use to see, whoa, there's something wrong immediately with that hive. Because I'll feed 40 colonies, come back, and there's one hive like that. Something's wrong with that colony. So I'm okay with that. Bees die all the time. I'm losing hundreds of thousands of bees a day. And so what you can do to help that is you can take the cap and ladder out there, and you can put little sticks and floats and all kinds of things. And some people will weave some hardware cloth in there and all kinds of different things. But ultimately, healthy bees, if the frame feeder is used correctly, I think it's the best feeder. I love frame feeders. It's the most used feeder in the country. Not maybe in the hobbyist realm, but it is a good feeder, and they last so stinking long. I've got frame feeders that I purchased the first year I got into beekeeping, and I still am using them. So they're tough, and they stay inside the colony. So if I was going to get one, I would get the 1.5 gallon one. You can get them from Man Lake. Mother Lode is fixing to release a new frame feeder that's 1.5 gallon, and I'm excited because they're made in the USA, and I like Mother Lode products. Okay. Beekeepers do like to talk. Hey, Triton WR. I'm sorry I showed up late, but have you tried the extended release oxalic acid sponges yet? Don't know if you covered this yet. Yes, that is actually part of the research yard this year. The Columbia beekeepers, especially Richard Brickner, the president, is bringing up himself and a team to help me get data actually just here in a few days. And that will be the first take on the Varroa populations. Then we're going to come back and we'll be one of the test groups. We have approval to use the extended release oxalic acid. We can't get honey from these colonies, but we can test it. So we'll be using those sponges and hopefully it'll do a halfway decent job. We're going to compare it with other groups as well and be able to determine hopefully if it's a viable option. I know Randy Oliver's done a lot with it, and thankfully Randy has talked to me on the phone and consulted with me through emails so that I don't goof this up. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, but as of right now I don't know how well it'll work for me. Yeah, I haven't used it yet. All right, lots more people coming in. Cayman, you missed the offer. Another $99 donation so you can get Laurel on your live video for 10 minutes. Right. No, I just now saw that. So don't, for the first one, I'll see if I can get her on. There's no reason to send another 99. I do appreciate the offer, but she's got to start doing more of this stuff anyways. What happens if I die or something? I get in a wreck and I kick the can, then she's going to have to take over and start doing these videos. Or my son Jimmy will. Let me tell you, yeah, he likes the spotlight a little bit. So, but I don't know where he gets that from. I have no clue. It just randomly, some kids just get these things. Cedar chips in my smoker seems to eliminate mites over the last 2 years. Well, I use cedar and I don't see a difference. I've been using cedar all year. Although I do see a difference. It smells a lot better than grass clippings. Hey, Jim Hughes, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next time. Has oxalic acid been labeled to be used for honey supers now? What's your opinion of it using while honey supers are on? Great question. I actually got some information direct from some of the people at Man Lake. I was talking to them the other day about our conference, and they are pushing forward to change the label on apabioxol. So if you go, the EPA has approved it, but until the label has been changed, it's not legal. So once the label is changed and that new piece of paper is on the same product, you can use it. Hmm. And it's not going to do much. I mean, yeah, I guess it's better than a kick in the pants, but who has the time to treat bees with oxalic acid vapor in the middle of a honey flow? I don't. Um, maybe if it's like a sick colony that has a little bit of honey on it or something, and you want to be able to harvest that honey, maybe that's good. But when the bees have a lot of brood, you're going to have to treat, and you're going to have to treat, and you're going to have to treat. Used to as 5 rounds in 21 days. That's what everyone said. 5 rounds in 21 days, it'll wipe out all the mites. Or some people are like once a week for 3 weeks wipes out all the mites. That's ridiculous. It doesn't work. I don't mean to be mean to anybody, but it does not work. Laurel, you've got to get in here. Apparently, Shane Williams is dead serious about you coming on to the live chat tonight. So we gotta say thank you somehow. And apparently, I'm not cute enough to work. All right, all right. She says she'll be in here in just a minute, folks. Doesn't mean you're going to talk. Well, women. Wow. So gosh, I don't even know where I was. Oh, so it will be legal. However, There was a man who did some research with sticky boards, and what he found out is he treated with oxalic acid like every 2 days for a 21-day period. And that's what it took to reduce his mite loads down. And, there's been beekeepers, and like the University of Florida has been testing it out as well. It's just a soft treatment. It doesn't kill for just days and days and days like we thought it did. I think what we were seeing that led us to believe that is, let's say we have 1,000 mites that are exposed. I know that's a lot, but let's say it's 1,000 and we treat with oxalic acid. We may kill 580 to 600 of them, but not all of those will die in one day. You might get a real big surge of 300 mites hit the bottom board the first day. Then you might have 100 fall and hit the next day, and then maybe another 100 and whatever on the third day. And we're thinking, man, this is killing for multiple days. But those 1,000 mites that you had in there, you didn't kill all of them, for one. And that was just what was exposed during the treatment that you're killing. It's just taking multiple days for all of them to die and hit that bottom board. Meanwhile, that treatment is not killing any of the new mites that are coming out as the brood emerges. That is the problem. And so, based upon what I can tell and what a lot of the research are starting to see, is it really just kills what's exposed to it. If there's 1,000 mites exposed, it has a chance to maybe kill all those mites, but doesn't have any chance of killing those that are behind the capped brood. So you have to cover this cycle. Now, this is where things get a little bit more technical. Is capped brood only exist for around 14 days. So theoretically, if we can kill 100% of the mites in that first hit, then all we have left to cover is the capped brood stage. Because for nine, no, I'm doing this math quite a little bit wrong here. Day 9, they cap it. So there'd be 8 days, 14, 13 days, 13 and a half days, they're capped. Like 8.5 days, they're uncapped. I believe that's what is right. So if we kill 100% over that 8.5 day period, and that covers that, boom. Now we only have a 14 day period that we actually have to kill mites in as they're emerging out of the cell. We've got to hit them. So if you're doing oxalic acid and you're wanting to really take them to the woodshed, maybe we should stop thinking of it in a 21-day period and start thinking of it as in a 14 odd day period, and just hammer the heck out of them during that period, because it's that capped brood where we've got to get those mites. And formic acid kills them under the capped brood. Okay, but most products like this product right here and oxalic acid, Apovar, and others does not kill them under the capped brood. So just so you know, it's more. I look at it more of as a 14-day thing than anything else. Holy crap! I just looked over here and saw all this stuff. Sorry about my French. Um, wow, Adam Dinsmore, thank you so much for your donation. Wow, very generous, and thank you. If you have any questions, shoot them my way, and if I don't see it originally the first time, just send it over again. And Shane Williams, gosh, um, wow, thank you so much. I think what we're going to do is actually put the donations tonight towards all of them, towards the kids' sponsorship. That's something that's really important to me. There's a little story I'll share real quick, and Laurel should be in here in just a second. So when I was a teenager, I remember being jealous of this guy, and we didn't know each other, but I was reading through the American Bee Journal, and he's a year younger than me. And some of you may know of him. His name is Blake Shook with Texas Bee Supply down in Texas in Desert Creek Honey. So he's 32, I'm 33. And I remember reading the American Bee Journal, there's an article about him, and he was running around 200 hives, had a commercial beekeeper for a mentor. And I was thinking, man, I wish I could get a hold of somebody that was that great near me somewhere. And at that time, I may have had 25 hives at the most. And so I just remember thinking, man, I wish I was in that kid's shoes. It wasn't anything crazy, but That stuck in my head, and I didn't think about him for years. Well, then the last couple of years through the YouTube, I've met a lot more people and come to find out the part of the reason I recognized him because he looks the same as he did back when he was a teenager. I hope this doesn't get back around to him because he's a lot bigger than me. But anyways, he started when he was young, and now he's running a business selling equipment, running thousands of colonies. He's been on the board of directors with some of the biggest associations in the country and has seemed to do really good for himself. That's the kind of people we're looking for with this kid sponsorship program. Not that they've already done these things, but we're looking for young gals and guys that if they're given the right mentoring and they have the drive, we want to find them and bring them to the conference and allow them to learn from these people and be inspired by how grand it is. We want to make it grand and awesome. And we want them to walk away going, yes, there is things to be excited about, even as a teenager in beekeeping. And there is something in this industry I can carve out for myself. And here are some of the best in the industry I can learn to be like. And they can get stuff that I wasn't getting in my teens, and they can be years ahead. So that's what we're going for with that. So everything tonight, I'm going to put it into that. And thank you guys so much, Adam, Shane, Steve, and so many others that have donated tonight. All right, Laurel, come on, Laurel, come on. I gotta be careful. This screens start just going all fuzzy. Yeah, nuts and bolts beekeeping. That's what life insurance is for. You die and she will have to make money on YouTube. Yeah, that is absolutely right. But she, Jimmy will do it. I'm sure. I'm sure he will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are calling your name, Laurel. So, by the way, tomorrow's video is going to be a really kind of depressing one. Not like in a really depressing one, but it kind of made me sick to my stomach when I saw what you'll see in the video tomorrow. It is we have not had a video like this before, and I hope to never have one like it again. Hmm. Yeah, Laurel is of significantly greater value than Cayman. Hey, it was Laurel's idea to start the YouTube channel, everybody. I told her she was crazy and it would never work. So never tell a woman that she's crazy. She'll prove a point just to be spiteful. And here we are. Cayman, you are gonna get so beaten. Okay. All right, come. The queen bee has arrived and wearing one of my favorite collars on her, green. Oh goodness. It's not another trike riding video. That's right. So Formic Pro killed my queen about 4 weeks ago. Been checking the hive, and there's some good queen cells capped and brood, but still not seeing any eggs or larvae. Should I be worried? So, if I don't see a queen in the next week laying, then yeah, I would be concerned if it's been that long ago. Yeah, that's sometimes the issue with Formic is if you have a queen that seems like if the temperature's right, there won't be an issue. There won't be an issue with it. But sometimes if you have an older queen or a queen that's a little subpar, the Formic will go ahead and cause that colony to supersede her. But if the temperatures are hot, even if it's a good queen, sometimes will supersede the queen anyways. And that's one of the reasons why Formic products are kind of people are a little shy to use them. I think the beekeepers that use them on a regular basis really focus on that temperature and make sure they don't get anywhere close to it. They make sure they vent the colony properly when they use it. And they also plan to lose some queens. Like if I want 10 hives, maybe I'm going to order 3 or 4 queens and make some splits because I know I'm going to lose maybe 2 or 3 queens out of this deal. And this is just part of my requeening program for the year. I know guys that do that. They use Formic to help them requeen colonies. So Again, just developing these strategies, but Formic, yeah, is sensitive to that. Hey, Laurel. Come on. Say thanks, Shane. Come on. It's not that bad. These people, you can't even see these people. Just imagine they're all in their underwear. They say that helps. Honestly, it's terrifying if you ask me. Because the thought of seeing Byron Ferris in his underwear. I hope Byron's still on here. Adam says, I don't treat for mites until fall. Is this okay to do? So maybe. And see, this is, I don't know where you're at, Adam. There are beekeepers who are up north. I know some guys that are in Vermont and Wisconsin and beekeepers that are in Canada, and their main hard treatment is in late summer, but they don't build as many mites up as we do. So some beekeepers can literally get one good knockback, and then I would still recommend to do an oxalic acid cleanup in winter or broodless periods, because you want to have multiple treatments going to make sure you're not just using one over and over again. They could breed resistance. Can you shut that door, Laurel? Thank you. That's right. Byron's an old friend of mine, for sure. He actually is the guy. If you come to the conference, we have he brings his Lysin creamer, 36-gallon creamer, and it will cream the honey live, and then he'll bottle it, and you can actually buy it, and it'll set up in the jars at your house, and you can get some creamed honey made at the Hive Life conference. It's really cool to see, if nothing else. Laura will be right back. One of the my son needed a little bit of assistance. When he's bad, he's my son. Just FYI. I know you've never said that, but he does kind of act like his daddy, doesn't he? You may have thought it, yeah, but you never said it. Okay, I'm glad you clarified. But I don't know. I mean, so for you, Adam, I don't know where you're at, but definitely monitor and know the beekeepers that are good at being sustainable. They know what their season and their bees need. And what I need in Tennessee is different what a Florida guy needs and what a Michigan guy needs. So, excuse me. So Yvonne asks, when will the conference tickets be on sale? The goal is for them to be on sale just here in a handful of days. We're shooting for the first day of June, but it might be sometime in the first week of June. I've just got to see when the website guy gets it all put together. I think we're on schedule. But I'm following up on that. But as far as that goes, yeah, that last comment, it should be around June, Yvonne, and we will be announcing that on our YouTube channel and everything like that, so you guys can know. This guy says, Laurel, can you attach a camera to your microscope? I'm looking forward to see a video on that. Yes or no? You can nod or just go ahead. Yeah, you almost did it. Halfway there.
Stop.
She said stop, folks.
I'm planning on getting one. I was looking at them earlier today.
Yes. See, she has a great voice, and she's smart, good looking. I'm shaking the table. It's because you make me nervous. Turquoise, not green. Okay, it is kind of more turquoise. Byron in his underwear making cream patty, no shame. Haha. Okay, that's not how it is at the conference. It's too cold in January for that. No, yeah, all jokes aside. I hope Byron, I don't think Byron's on here. If he would have been on here, he would have said something by now. Zach says, I'm not sure I've ever seen Laurel before. Hi, Laurel. Yeah, she's only been on a couple of videos over. Out of 500 videos, what have you been on? Like three, four?
And a couple.
So what people are wanting to know, what's it like to run the Hive Life Conference and run Kamon? No comment is what she said. That is so not mean. Jeffrey Taylor says, do you test for tracheal mites? See, that's one of the reasons we're excited to use the microscope towards the end of the season, is I want to check for nosema and see if we can check for tracheal mites as well. In the South, it's not considered to be a big issue. However, these lesser issues in the South can be worse some years, or maybe they are. We take a lot of things for granted in beekeeping. We focus so much on Varroa. So sometimes we overlook these lesser pests, but you don't know until you know. And one thing I've learned over the years is listening to what the average person does doesn't help me become an above average beekeeper. So I think that's where that microscope's going to help our operation out. And we'll share that with you guys as we use it. I want to see what nosema is like in our bee yards. Are they actually impacting our winter clusters? I mean, I know up north are a big deal, but are they actually impacting us down here? And is there something we can do about that? Lindsay Homestead Farm says, Kamon, I just harvested some of that clear honey. Good deal. Good deal. Going to enter some of that into the honey show again this year, Jeremy? So Dave says, you've told the story that Laurel got stung several times and really bad when she first started beekeeping and had a bad reaction. Does she still have bad reactions to stings?
Thankfully not.
Nope. You had to tough it out for a long time, though, because when we first got married, you still had pretty good reactions to it. There you go. So, yeah, when she first married me, she still kept bees. I mean, it didn't keep her from keeping them, but it was super annoying because, I get stung on the hand and ow, and then it's over with. And, Laura would get stung and then she'd continue to work. But then over, what do you say, about an hour? Yeah. It'd work her way all up her arm and it'd be, inflamed and hot all the way up to her bicep. And that's really not the signs of like a deadly allergy, but that was elevated. Yeah, this is Mrs. Kamon Reynolds right here. The better half in just about every way. She keeps me around for grunt work and things like that. Strong backs, weak minds, that kind of thing. So, but now it's not near that anymore, though. As time has gone on, you don't have near the swelling. Yeah, and no itch either. That's one thing you get over that over time. It's kind of this way. Typically, when the more you get stung, it either gets worse and kills you, or you get over it. What? Oh my goodness, Steve! I thought you said you were going to bed, Steve. Wow. Well, that's going towards the kid program tonight as well. And wow, we have sponsored several kids tonight between Marianne Sears and Steve Chubb and Shane and Adam and Brian and Jason and so many other people. We have sponsored several kids tonight that are going to be able to get a full ride. And that's just going to be awesome. And again, Laurel, do you think you could leave that link? If you know of a 12 to 21-year-old who is interested in beekeeping and, interested a little bit, like, that's really not what we're looking for. They're welcome to enter. But what we're looking for is those that like, this is what they love. And they don't have to be grafting queens and all kinds of stuff like that. Show off Natalie Summers. She came on last week. Natalie's a prodigy. She doesn't think she is, but she is. And, but we just want to find those young gals and guys that just need a little help and get that advanced information to take it to the next level. And every dollar tonight is going towards that. And wow, I did not realize you guys are so generous, and thank you. Brian, thank you so much as well. And Steve, gosh, you come to the conference this year. I'm going to have to shake your hand. Actually, Laurel, because you like, shake Kamon's sweaty hand. Laurel, you have to remember that I've signed you up for that job now. And get a picture. All right, you posting it? Is that what you want? Yeah, the application link. So, Laurel's putting the application to the kid sponsorship program now down below. And so, yes, 12 through 21-year-olds can apply, and it covers the hotel, the guardian if necessary, and also covers their meals for both guardian and young beekeeper Friday and Saturday, and the whole experience. Of course, we'll have Thursday night as well, so that they'll have the whole package. And like I said, it will cover their hotel, all that stuff. So, how often can I use Apovar strips? Brian asked. So, Apovar strips, you can use them multiple times a year, I believe, but you have to spread them out. But the problem with Apovar strips is they're not working like they used to. Bob Benny just did some research with the University of Georgia, University of Auburn. I believe it was Maryland or somewhere up in there, Massachusetts, one of those places, in New England. There we go. And they found the Apovar did not knock the mites significantly backward. It kind of held them at the level that they were. It didn't allow the mites to grow to crazy high levels, but it didn't suppress them like it used to. There is more information coming out all the time. The Apovar is not crushing mites like it used to. You put those strips in there. If you had a 2% infestation, you'd be under 1%. If you had a 1%, you'd be washing zeros a lot of times in alcohol washes. I do not see that anymore with Apovar. I've quit using it. Bob Benny has quit using Apovar. His friend, Greg Rogers, who runs hundreds of colonies, he's quit using Apovar. And this is bad because this was a product that was very dependable for many years. Now, there's a lot of debate on whether it's the mites becoming immune to it or it's the company having issues. I tend to lean into the camp that the company is having issues. Nobody knows for sure, but what we do know is it's not working as good. So watch out using Apovar. Some people say it's still killing mites for them. Some people are saying that it's not. And I have talked to two researchers who have said what they'll go into like a package of Apovar, like with 50 strips, and they will find that some of the strips will be really high in the active ingredient, and some of them are significantly lower. And that's kind of why I feel like it's a little bit of a production issue. So if you're getting a package that has some nice hot ones, you're good. You just got to watch it. So that's frustrating. Apovar used to be one of the better treatments on the market as far as not really affecting the bees at all, not very temperature sensitive at all, and did a good job. And I think that one's, if at least for me, is off the table as far as a treatment goes. That is not good. Sorry about the bad news, Brian. That made me think bad news bears. I'll have to tell you some other time. James Searcy, thank you so much. Very generous donation. Thanks for the nice comment on what you've learned from our channel as a new beekeeper. You've been a fantastic resource and had your 2 hives for a little over a month now with no major disasters, likely thanks to you. Well, I don't know about that. Obviously, we're not there to do the work for you, but we hope that we're able to help as any way that we can. And Laurel, even though she's kind of the silent partner, yeah, she really does a lot. You would not believe all the stuff that she does around here. I'm just going to start talking bad about you, Laurel, until you fight back. That'll get you to talk, won't it? She'll probably just not say anything, just beat me. Pow. That was a look like I'd never do something like that. And she wouldn't. I probably have it coming. My own mother would say I had it coming. All right. I've seen some questions I got to get to, but James Cersei, thank you so much for the donation again. And if you have a question, leave it below. You guys can leave these into the comments on videos, and I try to get to as many as I can. Hey, thanks again, Brian, very much. Very, very much. Sleep with one eye open, Kamon. All right, Laurel, what would you like to talk about tonight? Nothing? So what? Come on, come on. Somebody needs to ask some questions, because if I ask Laurel questions, she'll ignore me, but she'll be polite and probably answer yours. Huh? Okay. Sorry. I'm missing some questions. So you're suggesting Apogard, is that the right product? So this is not a perfect product either. This product, Apogard, you can get it in much smaller containers, but it is one of my favorite products. I don't like it on little colonies like 5-frame nukes. I like it on 10-frame strong colonies, 8 frames, healthy, balanced colony. I don't want to use it on a colony that just has a queen that just started laying. That's one thing I don't like about it, because you'd like to make a split, and when there's not a lot of brood, use a product, and then you kill the mites really good. That's one thing I used to do with Apovar all the time, and this made it almost invaluable. We would make our splits after the honey flow, and when you put a queen cell in there or a new queen, you're splitting the brood up between two colonies, and there's a little bit of a hiccup until that queen starts laying. So that exposes more mites, and then you're putting the Apovar strips in there, which did not affect the queen at all. And so we were killing mites, getting a great new queen, and getting that new split and all that stuff. It was a great thing. You can't do that with formic acid and Apogard. The reason you can't is because they work through killing mites through vaporizing through the colony. They both smell really strong. Apogard smells like concentrated mouthwash, the thymol in it. And of course, formic acid is formic acid. Whew. So that affects the queen's laying production to a degree. Apogard's not near as bad as formic. However, we just have to be careful. And so these products, when used appropriately, Apogard works really good. But what we need is a product that kills mites well and really doesn't impact the colony much. And we really don't have that. Um, it's like we have oxalic acid on one end of the spectrum that is a very weak treatment and doesn't really affect the colony, but doesn't affect the mites to a great extent unless they're broodless. Or we have products like this one over here that does kill more mites, but does affect the colony dynamics, blocks pheromones and all those kind of things as well. So Apovar is not legal to use in Washington. Maybe it's not. I know some of the I think it's that way in California as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I think I heard something like that a while back. Steve Chubb says that he's just going to show up and have fun. We won't even know that he's there. Well, you shouldn't do that, Steve. That's one of my favorite parts of the Hive Life conference, is actually getting to meet people that I've talked through YouTube, and I've known some of you guys for years and haven't met you yet. So it's I'm not just there to throw a big party and then not get to meet anybody and just hang out with Benny the whole time. Bob's fun to be around, but he talks so slow. It's kind of hard sometimes. Maybe I just talk fast. What are you trying to say? This?
Yeah.
You haven't talked enough to need something to drink. Help, I have a capped queen cell. Only had my nuke for 3 weeks. Want to split the hive so it doesn't swarm. I don't know what I'm doing yet. That sounds like me. Back when I started. So now what you have to determine is, is it a swarm cell or is it a supersedure cell? And it could very well be a swarm cell if they've gotten a little bit bound up. So if it's a swarm cell, then yes, split them up a little bit. You could do that right there, and that might prevent them from swarming. However, it could be that they superseded their queen, and there could be a lot of reasons for this. So if there's a lot of eggs, or if there's a larvae in there, young larvae, and especially if there's eggs, that means you had a queen and they're wanting to swarm. If they don't have any young brood and they have capped queen cells, then that probably means they're superseding. So you'll have to kind of get in there and determine that. You can kind of look online and see some of the differences between the two, and then go from there and determine if you need to split that colony or just let that supersedure run its course. Whew. Thanks, Vanderpool Farms. 274 watch and only 99 likes so far. And that's one thing I would like to say is it makes a huge difference when you like our videos, when you subscribe to our channel. It may not seem like it's much, but it actually does help tremendously. YouTube is based off of algorithms. Heck, when people dislike our videos, it actually helps push our videos more than if you didn't thumbs up it or thumbs down it. The interaction actually drives it. Isn't that crazy? I could get 1,000 thumbs down and get more views off the video than if I got no thumbs up and 0 thumbs down. YouTube is weird, but actually, let's not get into that. They might ban me. Oh, what did I do, Laurel? I almost went out of the page. That wouldn't have been good. Hey, have you ever seen a comfort hive? I have seen some comfort hives before, and to me, it's just I like frames. I like them a lot. I know that they're cheaper, but sometimes I think that cheap costs. And I know that it kind of works for him, but if you've met me and then hung around Sam Comfort, you'll realize we're very two different type of guys. And that isn't, what was that smirk about? I play the mandolin, he plays the ukulele. It's very different. Yeah, it's him. Do you want to talk on this, Laurel? No? Can you turn that alarm off, please? But don't do that, Laura. You're killing me over there. So we're just two types of people, and he likes to keep things more cheap and affordable, and I prefer to have things a little bit nicer. And I like my system a lot better. I look at the last 20 years I've kept bees, and I see so many times where people try to reinvent the beehive and do this and do that, and we should make advances for sure, but I think sometimes we're always looking for the next best thing, and sometimes the next best thing isn't as good as what we already got. So they could work. I tried foundationless years ago, and I hated it. It's not that you can't do it, but I hate it. I love foundation. Yes. Is it more expensive? Yes. I run my combs for 10 years. Some people say that I'm crazy for doing that. My bees are still alive. I've run combs to 16 years. My bees were still fine. I live in a rural area. If you're in an area where you have a lot of crop dusting and chemicals and things like that, then maybe you need to recycle your combs a lot more. But most beekeepers, like Bob and commercial guys like Blake Shook, they're running combs typically around 10 years. And you can cycle them out before then if you can afford it. But anyways, the comfort hives can work. They're just not for me. There you go. Wow, that was a lot easier. I should have done that. That look of yours threw me off. That's what it was, Laurel. Laurel, has Kamon embarrassed himself publicly before?
Kamon doesn't get embarrassed.
That isn't true. That isn't true, but it is hard. And you have to have a thick skin doing this for sure. I get a lot of interesting comments. You guys don't see them because a lot of them are flagged because they're so obscene half the time. But we do get some interesting comments. I was called a Neanderthal, a walking, living, breathing version of Hyperbole. Um, Randy McCaffrey and I, the 628 Dirt Rooster guy, we actually send each other um, like who's got the worst comment of the week. And he beats me sometimes, but sometimes I beat him. It's hilarious. But you have to have a thick skin to do this stuff, and also realize that we're not right all the time. I know I'm not. I have my own opinions, and they're not always correct. Um, Maybe the question should have been worded: How has Cayman embarrassed you publicly in the past? Never, never. Okay, scrolling down. My question for Laurel is from Harry Vanderpool: Do you get sick of propolis in the washer and dryer? Have you found a way to avoid this? Don't hate me, Cayman.
I think this might happen once or twice.
Yeah. You know, Harry, I have a special wife. You can tell by looking at her, right? Ow. Ow. Anyways, so she you knocked the answer right out of me, Laurel. No, she knew what she was getting into when she married me, and she was a beekeeper prior to us getting married. So we do get some propolis in the washer and dryer, and that's just part of it. We we're country people. We like things nice, but we don't get too awful crazy. And I'm not good about keeping a set of blue jeans that look good for very long. And um, she lets me get away with a lot of more stuff than a lot more women would. It was really shocking. My mother wouldn't let me get away with a lot of the stuff that she lets me get away with. So when it comes to how I wear clothes and stuff, but hey, she likes beekeeping a lot more than most ladies. And thing I like about Laurel is she's a nice healthy balance. You get some girls that are like so country, they're like rednecks, and then you have some ladies that's you got two types of southern women. You've got the redneck hick girls, and then you got the regal southern belles. That's kind of the category Laurel falls into. Yeah. hmm And then you married a half a Yankee Southern person hybrid. Felt sorry for me. All right. I have 3 hives in my backyard, really close to my house, around them every day, super, super gentle. My other hives away from people in a fruit orchard are more aggressive. Same queen line. Any ideas? Well, all it takes is one drone, Chris. You may already know this, but they can mate with 15, 30. The jury's still out on exactly how many they will mate with. And not only do the drones compete for the queens, but research has shown that the sperm actually competes for placement in her special organ, the spermatheca. So you have no clue. If she lays 1,000 eggs a day, there could be literally representatives of 18 different types of bees or drones, fathers. And all it takes is one of those to have some hot genetics. And if she's laying 100 of those a day, then in a 10-day period, you have 1,000 of those suckers in your hive. So even though they're from the same lines, did they get exposed to the same drones? That's the trick. Also, I find that hives are a little bit more aggressive when they're in full shade all the time. This is not always the case, but when they're in full shade, they can tend to be a little bit more aggressive. So location could have something to do with it. Also, is one of the hives going queenless? Queenless hives can sometimes get really ill. So there's a few different issues. And another thing I almost forgot about: check around that hive. Are you seeing any dirt kind of roughed up around the hive, scratch marks onto the landing board? If a skunk or a critter can, especially a skunk, irritate and eat some of the bees of a night, when you get back to those bees, they'll be really irritated because they're being fed upon by a skunk. A skunk can really turn a hive hot. So there's several variables there. Bob Benny is the Bob Ross of beekeeping. He is. Bob is just such a cool guy. I was talking to Natalie about this not too long ago because Natalie and I are very different. Natalie Summers, she runs the beekeeping channel, Beekeeping Like a Girl. She's 14, really cool, picks on me all the time. Oh, Beekeeping with Natalie, right? So, she was talking about you know I talk all the time, and she does. She doesn't. Well, Bob doesn't either. But Bob is a legendary beekeeper in my mind, and he doesn't talk a ton. But when he does talk, you listen. But if you met Bob on the street with his gentle, laid back personality, you would not think in the first 4 minutes of conversation that Bob Benny was a beekeeping tycoon. And once you get to talk to him a little bit, the guy is really shrewd, smart businessman, and really a go getter. So, you know, it's talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words. And that's why Laurel is so amazing because she doesn't need words. I should shut up now. Do you know about this product, Hopguard? I do, and it's not very consistent or good. Um, you can use it, and I don't like it. It's messy. It's not extremely good at killing mites, especially if there's a lot of brood in the colony. Most of the research that has been done on it has been done when they're broodless. And how often are bees broodless? Hopguard may have its place, but I don't know anybody who uses it on a regular basis and for good reason. Every time I've used it, I've been like, wow, I could have spent money and got a whole lot more bang for my buck. I don't like it. And I hope they fix it eventually, but they probably should change the name from Hopguard to something else because Hopguard has not had a good track record, in my opinion. Hmm? Laurel says, how many versions have there been now? There's Hopguard 1, 2, and 3. So strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Like Bugs Bunny. This John was asking, this is a type of June. It's honey kombucha, basically. And it has basil and all kinds of green tea. And I feel so healthy from it. Oh, so healthy. What is that floating in here? That looks really gross. I think it's some of the SCOBY. It's like an alien in water is what it looks like. Hey, Scott Maxwell, thanks for donating to our channel again tonight. If considering a move to the south with quality of life, cost of living, climate, and honey production being primary considerations, where is best? Oh, my goodness, that's the $1,000,000 question. Moving to the south, quality of life, cost of living, climate, honey production. Oh, man. Tennessee is really not the best location for massive honey crops. It's not that you can't do good, but you don't hear about huge commercial operations just kicking butt in Tennessee. It's a good location, but it's not, you're not producing 200 pounds here. That's for sure. I think if you're a really good beekeeper in an average year, you can do 100 pounds in Tennessee per colony, but that's, really good beekeeping. If I can average over 100 pounds a year, I'm very happy. And we can do that, but we have to put a lot of work and they have to be strong bees at the right time of the year. As far as cost of living is not too bad in Tennessee compared to some places. I think our economy is good compared to a lot of places. We definitely believe in freedom more here than a lot of states do. So that's a win. As far as Alabama's a good state, got one of the best football teams ever. Alabama, roll Tide. Woo, woo. Then they got Auburn, one of the worst teams. We won't get into that. They have the Gulf too, but I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't, Scott. And everyone has different needs. I love Tennessee. I think it's a great state. Not perfect, but it's great. And I'm happy to be here. All right. Any updates on confirming vendors for the conference from Bohemia Bees? Now, um, as far as vendors go, confirmed. I mean, we've got like 53 verbal commitments. We're actually not going to start signups for probably another 3 or 4 weeks. Just have so much going on with the bees. I've already promised we'll get attendees signed up. But from what I understand, Bohemia Bees, you're going to be there as one of the vendors with another YouTuber if that doesn't change. And so that'll be awesome. We're going to have probably like Pureco there. So they'll have the solid plastic frames if anyone that likes that. Of course, we had gosh, we had so many companies last year. Guardian, Bee Apparel, Pierce Beekeeping, Hillco, Apogard. This company is planning on coming. This company is planning on coming. That produces this product right here for your feet. A new product from Canada. We're going to have the easy loaders this year. We don't have COVID getting in the way of the border. So as long as nothing crazy happens, they'll be bringing that loader that Ian Stepler uses, and you can see that demoed live. And Laurel says, and you can buy me one. Yeah. What's that Aerosmith song? I think it is. Dream on, dream on. Yeah, I think that's what that is. I believe that's Aerosmith. I hope I don't mess that up. Dogwood Ridge, Laura B Vaporizer, Oxavap, um, Motherload, Maple Bend, Strong Microbials, Apame, Formic Pro, Man Lake. Dayton says they're coming this year. We'll see about that. That's what they said last year. A Nature's Image Farm. That's Greg Burns' YouTube channel. They sell buckets and all kinds of things. Bob Benny is going to have a booth this year at our conference. So that'll be interesting to see. We plan on doing bulk buys like bulk pollen subs so you can save on that. Bulk Jester Nuke boxes. Better Bees planning on bringing trucks of product down this year. We had $30,000 in license product last year, and we're going to have more than that this year. I was just talking to Lyson the other day. Pigeon Mountain, Hive Butler, West Alabama Bee Supply, Cutler Bee Supply. They provide the incubators Bob Benny and I use. Wick Wasp Press, Thorn Manufacturing. I mean, the list goes on. So much more. Swarm Commander, Anel out of Greece. I'm working on JZBZ, Global Patties. Vita Pharma is going to be there. I mean, I can rattle off a dozen more names. We literally going to try to have everybody there. So tell all your friends. And we'll have more mics. We'll have more mugs. I was wondering what that was. So yeah, we're going to have more mugs and memorabilia, all that stuff. Lots of cool gizmos and gadgets. Okay, the conference is January 5th, 6th, and 7th. The 2 primary days are the 6th and 7th. The speakers should be announced here in just a little bit. Here just a few days. You'll want to go to hivelifeconference.com. Laurel's going to put a link down below. And so the additional day on the 5th is going to be just a meet and greet that evening. We're going to go into the vendor area. They're going to do demos. You're going to get to meet Bob Benny, any of these other guys, myself. You can get pictures with them if you'd like to. Frederick Dunn, all kinds of guys. Yeah, Bob Benny, we're going to change that up this year. Russell Koopman. Bob's a great speaker. He's just so darn quiet. I'm probably going to double mic Bob. And also, we have another room this year. And the vendors will have their own room. And then we'll have another room. It's this massive building. And it's carpeted. It has speakers all throughout the roof. And it has a lot better acoustics. Bob Benny will be in that room every time. Any suggestions on where to get 5-gallon honey buckets? I really don't know, Mike. I haven't used buckets in a long time. You can buy them in bulk, but I was getting from US Plastics .com. US Plastics has some great plastic products, and they're made in the US. But with the way shipping is now, I don't know what that's like. I haven't bought in years because we use barrels now. It would be so cool to have an international beekeepers present at your conference via video feed. Well, David, and we'll actually have some international speakers. I'm going to have multiple ones from Canada, one from France. We're looking into some other ones as well. So we want to make this an international conference, but I really don't like Zoom. I mean, it has its place, but I can do a Zoom with someone right now and broadcast that to you here. I really want a personable conference where you can meet them and get more. So it's not that we won't do Zoom, but I would rather just fly them over here if they're willing to do it. Awesome, Jason. Thanks for asking. Okay, so Laurel, just put a link down below of the Hive Life website. It's under construction right now, but and check it in the next couple weeks, and you should see what that is. So, how much are the tickets? They're $185 this year for early signups, and that comes with food Friday and Saturday. So on lunch both days. Now we're going to have a non-food option, so that will reduce the price a good bit. However, yeah, so it's 185. If you wait over a certain time period, it's probably going to go up another $10 later in the year. But it we have the best product deals in the country, and the best speakers, and just about everything else, and the best time. So it definitely, if you buy product and you can drive, you can save that in product and what you'd save on the product. So CS Steinbuck, thank you so much for donating tonight. Again, all donations are going to the Kids Scholarship Fund, and thanks again for being a part of that, CS Steinbuck. Finally get to meet the real force behind the Hive Life Conference. And yes, Laurel is a lot of the tech stuff, a lot of the merch, a lot of the inner workings of the nitty gritty technicals dealios that I hate and don't do. That's your job description, the technical nitty gritty dealios that I hate. You do those. Okay. Yeah. Her job description is all those technical things and laughing at my bad jokes. She just went, if you couldn't hear it. Let's see. A lot of people commenting on living in different states. For a beginning beekeeper going into a first honey harvest, how about a recommendation for an extractor electric? This is an interesting one. So, but a good one. When you have just a few hives and you're beginning beekeeper, I totally get it. A lot of beekeepers don't want to invest into a high quality made extractor because they're expensive. You know, if you're talking like a Maxent or a Thorn or a Dadent or something like that, you can pay a lot of money, or you could pay a lot for a Man Lake extractor and just not get a good one. Don't get me started on Man Lake's extractors, but you can get smaller extractors from some of those companies that are good, but they're a little bit more expensive because they're made to last. Dadent, Maxent, and Thorn. However, Thorn doesn't have a small one out yet. And if you're trying to budget, which I imagine you're trying to do, then sometimes you can find some used extractors that are great value. You might pay a little bit more than you wanted to, but the thing of it is, a lot of times if you find a used one, you may use it for a while, and then if you sell it because it's made so good, you can sell it for the same amount that you paid for it, sometimes even a little bit more. So I like used extractors if you can find them, Doug. But if you're looking for a new one and trying to keep costs low, then Hilco would probably be your best option. They do have a sticker now that's USA on their extractors, but that is just because they're assembled and designed by American people. They're still made in China. So, gosh. Yeah, I know. I'll get to that in a second. But Hilco does have a good Chinese made extractor as far as Chinese stuff goes. So, and they're a lot more cost effective. One thing you need to look out for everybody when you're looking at extractors is how many frames that they hold, because what you'll find is it says 18 frame extractor, but it actually only holds 9 deep frames. And you're like, well, I don't use deep frames, so that's fine. But if you would have got an 18 frame extractor that holds deeps, you probably could have held 25 or 26 mediums in there. And Maxent has their 20 frame extractor, but it only hold 10 deeps. So, and another issue with those thinner extractors is they don't hold as much honey in the bottom because they're thinner. So you have to empty them faster. And then on top of that, it's harder to stick frames into them because they're made skinnier. So there's just a lot of things to watch out with extractors. Lysin makes some good extractors too, but if you're on a budget, Hilco is if you're going to go foreign extractors, I would say Hilco is probably the place to buy a foreign extractor. If you're wanting to go for something that has more resale value and could last the rest of your lifetime, I would go American. That's my personal opinion, and I prefer that. Wow, that took a while. Gosh, I have got to say a monstrous thank you to Shane Williams, who donated $99.99 for the third time tonight. And I'm just, when we got on tonight, I did not expect this. Well, and so he says, thanks. Laurel stayed on longer than we bargained for. Sorry she hasn't talked much, but this is actually for her pretty good. I know it's sad, right? Do you see that face? It worked. See, this I've spent the last 11 years of my life trying to get reactions. Got to do something to keep the spark alive, right? So I poke and I pick and I ow and get picked on to get those reactions from her. But thank you so much. And I guess I'm taking Laurel to dinner soon. So Laurel's birthday is actually coming up here, so this is perfect timing. So I guess we're not going to go to McDonald's now, huh? we never go to McDonald's. I'm just messing, but I have a sensitive gut. I can't eat that kind of stuff. So Dripping Comb Bee Company would like my address. So as far as an email address, if it's conference related, Hive Life Conference, I think I've got it at gmail.com. I think I got this, Laurel. Conference at gmail.com. I just put it down there below. Shane, Steve, Adam, thank you guys. So many more. Thank you guys. Wow. We are going to get, I was hoping we could get like 25 to 30 kids at least this year. And at the rate that we're going already, we're totally going to hit it. We've just been killing it with these donations. And now I'm going to be totally taking pictures and videos with these kids, and they're going to have an awesome experience. Where it's actually going to be a special talk just for them, and a couple small things. Like we're going to get T-shirts custom for the kids too. They'll have their own Kid Hive Life Conference T-shirt, but it'll have more on it than this, and it's just awesome. Thank you guys so much. It really is going to help these kids out tremendously, and I'm kind of jealous. I wish this would have been around when I was a kid. It would have helped me out a lot. This is great. Kamon, when will tickets be available for purchase? They should be available within the next 7 days. Stone Mountain Apiaries at hivelifeconference.com. I've never actually seen an SAF extractor. I've heard that the Italian extractors are halfway decent. I've never seen one of those up close. I'm actually trying to see if I can get some of those at the conference, though. So yeah, I've heard some good things from Lysin. You need to look at reviews, though. Some companies, do some things better than others. Some of them can't fit a bucket underneath them, so if you're using a bucket to filter, that could be an issue. So, this. That's why I'm hoping to do more reviews in the future and just be able to review products. The issue is it gets the ground it's a slippery slope. There we go. Finally got it out. Because when you do reviews, you run into, hurting people's feelings, even if you're just being honest. And so many of these companies come to our conference, and I'm friends with a lot of them, but we've just got to do these reviews. We've got to know the pros and cons, and I'm not doing them all. There's other YouTubers that will do them as well, but these reviews are important. So we know what we're getting before we buy. So Doug Summers, this guy says, Hail Hives, Hilco 8-frame radial. He bought an 8-frame radial at Hive Life, just put it together last weekend for this year's season. I would recommend the equipment and definitely working with John Hill. I will agree totally on the John Hill side of things, working with John. I have no experience with the equipment, but John, I know John really well. That's one thing I love about Hilco is John is a very honest person and believes in customer service. A lot of companies don't. So um, that's one of the reasons why I recommend Hilco as much as I have is just because if you have an issue, I know John's going to fix it. Man Lake, different story. Man Lake used to be like that though. Man. Cajun Homestead and Beekeeping says, Kamon, you lucked up. Well, I keep hearing people saying that all the time. What are you guys trying to say? Aloha from Hawaii. Sorry to be late, but I had a chance this afternoon to capture bees from a house in Volcano, Hawaii. Cool, cool, cool. I appreciate all your videos. Hawaii. I can't say that out loud. So Mike, Minnesota Beekeeper, we put our 20 frame license on top of 2x4s to fit the bucket and filter. Yeah, there you go. And so you can do stuff like that. And I like bolting extractors to the floor too, so they don't walk around or something like that. Um, One person got really upset about the 5 gallon bucket not fitting under a license, but they're made in Poland. They don't go by gallons there. And I'd say the majority of their business is in Europe, so they go off of liters and all those kind of things. You married up. Okay, okay. I get the idea. I get the idea. I won't disagree with that. They're trying to say, came to you out punted your coverage. Now I understand what that means. You don't watch enough football. That's your problem. Cayman, how I know you watch football with me. You just don't understand what's going on. Right, right. Cayman, how's the payment going to be set for the tickets? So what it's we're just waiting on one more thing to kind of finalize over the next couple of days, but basically 100% confident. Early registration will be 185, which is only $5 over last year, which I'm really happy about because with all the inflation that has gone up with food and everything else under the sun, we were able to lock in some prices in bulk because we did so well at our last conference as far as we had so many people and bought so much stuff from the venue. So we were able to lock the prices down a little bit. So it'll be 185 with meals both days. And what it's looking like is it'll be about 140, 145 without lunches. So there'll be 2 ticket options. And you can choose to go get your own lunches or get it at the conference. And so that'll be a dip. We didn't have that option last year. Everyone had to get meals. And then after like the first 4 weeks, the price will go up. So the first 4 weeks, it's going to be like you have to send in a check like we did last year. You send in a check, you have a 4 week period to do it. After the 4 weeks, everything will be going through credit card or PayPal or whatever. So the reason it's going up is primarily because they charge us such a large percentage on all that stuff. And so we have to raise the price to cover that. But if you do in the first 4 weeks, you can save that by sending in a check, basically. So it's not a huge bit of savings. It'd be like $10 per person, but that's something. Hey Yvonne, the hotel connected to the conference is Wilderness at the Smokies. Oh, Laurel just posted it. It's not a great hotel. It's good hotel. If it's priced a little bit higher than we like. And by the way, you may need to wait a little bit on the hotel pricing. We're going to try to have that at the same time the tickets are released. We'll have most of them up, but you should be able to get discounts at the hotels. It may be $20 off. It may be $10 off a night, but we will have some discounts for you going to the nearby hotels. So, don't get one without looking at the discounts first. We should have those up around the same time. Will Bob be there? Okay, so who do we got coming right now speaking? Bob Benny will be there. You know, Bob's a huge supporter of our conference. I got to say, huge thank you to Bob. He really believes in the whole YouTube thing now, as far as getting the best education we can get out there, and also being involved. I was talking to Bob on the phone 4 or 5 days ago, and we were talking about the conference, and I asked him to do a class with me just for the kids, talking about, he started his bees business up when he was young, and then going through the process of him extracting in his basement and garage, and building that up. I want to have a talk with Bob, and I'll be up there with him talking to those kids about what it takes to kind of get a successful hobby sideline business. And everyone's welcome to come to that, but especially for the kids, I want to have that. Um, oh, gee whiz. So before I get to the speakers, I got to say, wow, Shane, you're a crazy man. Thank you so much. You got a Thai Steve Chubb fellow. So there's a competition right now between Steve and Shane. So um, Laurel, do I need to be jealous of these guys or something like that? I mean, they getting getting you on here. And I beg you to come on all the time. She said, when people were asking it, do I ever do anything embarrassing? She's like, yes, he just did. He's embarrassing right now and all the time. Wow, Shane, thank you so much. Wow, thank you. Buy ice cream for the daughter and a toy bee truck for the son. Take care, and thanks for your godly example to the YouTube world. Beekeeping is fun. It is fun. And God bless you, Shane. We appreciate you very much. Wow. So Bree says, if you want more international people, you should move the conference to Nashville. And you're not wrong. However, the problem with Nashville, and we've looked there, I was going through different hotels. So here's some of the dynamics of this whole thing. So first of all, it is extremely hard to find a location where you can have 1,500 people coming, sell 8 to 10 semi loads of, or have 8 to 10 semi loads of product on the sales floor, have all this massive amount of stuff, because we need docks, we need forklifts, pallet jacks, we need lots of room. A lot of those hotels that are close to the airport in Nashville do not have that much room, and then they're extremely expensive. They're all right downtown. In Sevierville, it's a tourist area, and it's a slow season too, and so the hotels are cheaper, food is cheaper, everything's cheaper, and there's a lot more fun stuff to do. And in Nashville, basically, if you like fake country music and drinking alcohol and getting plastered, it's perfect for that. Nashville doesn't have a lot of other things to offer. There's a few things. There's some good restaurants in Nashville, but so we've looked into that, and it's very difficult to find new locations. It's not that we're not open to new things, but we're trying to keep this cost effective. I'm not trying to brag, but keeping it at $185 for everything that we offer at our conference is not easy. And we are doing the best that we can. But you're right, Nashville is a more international airport. However, we're trying to save you money in other ways as much as we can. But you're totally right. And in the future, if we ever found something awesome in Nashville that was affordable, we would do that. Adam, I appreciate you so much. Can we send in song requests for your bands? How about Little Whitewashed Chimney? I will write that down right now. Actually, Laurel, can you write that down for me right there? I'm not sure if I've heard that one. Whew. John, thanks for coming on. Flying in from Florida, are vendors selling products cheaper than the online sales? Yes. There are deals that are cheaper than online sales. Like, people were buying stuff from Hilco and getting bottling tanks for like 100 and I don't know, was it 130, 140 bucks off. You could get foundation from Premier. If you like, guys that were buying 1,000 sheets weren't having to pay shipping and we're getting 20% off. Now you can get 20% off normally buying 1,000 sheets on their website, but then you have to pay for shipping, and shipping is not cheap. And boxes, there's discounts on boxes. Like one of my friends who's in the wax dipping business now, you can get wax dip boxes for like $3 or $4 off per box. And then you add that with the foundations, this, an extractor. Oh, and then saving shipping on that extractor, because some extractors will cost you 150, $200 to ship to your house. You start adding all of these deals up. And there were a lot of reports of people saving 400, 500. One guy said he saved $700 on the product deals. However, I think it sounded like he spent on $4,000 or $5,000 to get that much off. But yes, you will be able to access better deals than you will ever be able to get anywhere else, as long as I'm have anything to say about it. For example, pollen patties. Um, right now, if you're an average beekeeper and you're wanting to get some global patties or ultra bee patties, and you're wanting to buy 10 pounds of patties, you're probably going to pay $3 or $4 a pound. And those small quantity prices, we're going to buy probably a semi load. Last year, we bought pallets of it. This year, I'm going to go for a semi load. And if we can get a semi load, it'll be under $2 a pound. I know that. So you can save, if you need 10, 50 pounds, you could save dozens on just pollen patties and feed supplements. So yes, we have the best deals in the country, and maybe in anywhere. I don't know. I'd like to see someone compete. This year's going to be better than last year. Hey, Jose. All right. Larry Lee's Bees. We got some of these Western guys hopping on. Always looking forward to your verbal abuse, Kamon. Well, I'm glad that I have something that you can look forward to. Larry has been at our conference every year. And the first year was like, his beard was like crazy thick. And then the next year, his girlfriend said no more. And yeah, you really need that beard, Larry. It did us all a lot of favors. But hey, I know what it's like. Laurel doesn't like beards, and so baby face. I know I don't really like him either. I can't grow a full one. Um, Venice, Italy conference, 3 days, $3,200 per night. Whoa, yeah, conferences can get pretty expensive. We're trying to keep it affordable. Confirmed speakers. Can you play Blackberry Blossom for us? Salty Bee. We actually played that at the conference. If you watch the 2-minute video, and thanks for the donation, by the way, Salty Bee. I really appreciate that. Um, Blackberry Blossom was one of the first songs that I learned. Wow. So I missed some questions above. I know I did. Some of the confirmed speakers right now is we have Paul Kelly from the University of Guelph. He has some really great videos on YouTube as well. Um, what we're going for not only is in good speakers, they have to know what they're doing. They need to be able to speak good, but they also need to be role models. So we're trying to bring in role models. And we're going to have guys like, of course, Bob Benny, Chris Warner, who's one of Bob Benny's friends. And I've talked to him on the phone. Great guy, great queen rearer. I think he's just going to be awesome. Awesome for our conference. And Ian Stepler will be there. I don't know if he'll be awesome, but he's going to be there. Ian's a poor guy. I shouldn't pick on him as much as I do, but he takes it so well. But yeah, Ian will be there, and he'll be. So we're gonna have different types of talks. In one room, we'll have like a professional, commercial level talk. In this room over here, we might have stuff that's a lot more applicable for your guy with, 5 to 50 hives or whatever. So we're gonna try to have a lot of diversity. Frederick Dunn's gonna be there. The Dirt Rooster's gonna be there. I got Landy Simone, Steve Rapaski. I've got more as well. David Peck. Etienne Tardif from the Yukon with his research is going to be there. So we're just going to have all kinds of stuff. And I got more on the way too. I'm just got to confirm some things. The goal is to have about 15 awesome personalities there, and then me. But and so much more. It's so fun. There's so many good people that show up. Oh, Erin Kelly's on. Do not encourage Larry's beard. Oh no, she's on. I've been caught. I'm sorry, Erin. I won't say it again. Laura won't let me. Well, Jason, flying's good too, but I mean, I tell you, there's caravans. You get some guys from bee clubs, and this is something to think of too. Last year, Premier Foundation sold a full semi load of product at the conference. So what you can do is to help you save some money. One guy in Tennessee went to the conference from Western Tennessee, and he had 3 or 4 beekeepers that wanted foundation as well. He only wanted 200 sheets, but he got enough from his club to buy 1,000, and so he was able to get a greater discount on his stuff as well. So it's a place to not just go and see all the cool things in beekeeping, but you also can buy and do whatever to save some money. All right. Yep, time is running out. I told Laurel I'd keep this one at 2 hours. We're 2 hours and 35 minutes in. I know I've been rambling around a lot. This last bit on the conference, a lot of people coming to ask beekeeping questions. So Ken Reinhardt. So this is my second year grafting. I have access to a second yard or two to start isolating genetics. What is your process for keeping diversity in your yard without diluting what you're selecting for? Well, bees naturally do pretty good job at keeping some diversity in. I think where you run into the biggest issues is when you're doing a lot of queens at a time. I don't know how many you're raising. Are you doing hundreds? Are you doing 10, 20? So there's that to consider. What we're doing is you put yards out from where you raise your queens, and you have those drone genetics that are shooting all those drones out. About 3/4 of a mile away from your grafting yard. And if you're doing 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 hive queens, it's not as big of a deal. But when you're doing hundreds, it is a big deal. And you want to over here, maybe they're a mile away from your queen ring yard, 3/4 of a mile in this direction, and flood the area with those drones. But what do we do to diversify so we don't bottleneck the genetics, but we also keep those traits? Well, first of all, first line of defense is verification. The colonies that are raising the drones have to come from queens that are proven. Maybe they're not as great as some of ours. The greatest queens that display the traits that we want, they will be the grafting ones for our queens. They have the characteristics that we want. And usually only 1 or 2 make the cut per year. But the drones could be those that almost made the cut. And as far as how do we keep the diversity in there, I'm a beekeeper like anybody else. I love trying different things. And I order queens from Chris Warner, Bob Benny, Michael Palmer. I've tried some of Sue Kobe stuff out there, the New World Carnies. I've tried a lot of different things, and you can buy a handful of queens each year and run them for a couple years. And I like to really give 2 full seasons, or at least a majority of 2 seasons, before I consider anything good for my program. But I don't get really, really technical like artificial insemination stuff and brother Adam level stuff. So you can get really detailed, but verification, and you can bring new stuff in and see, hey, but it takes a while. You can't just work it into the program. At least I don't. So, but there were some beekeepers like Charles Mraz, who I really like a lot of his work, who really believed in just going into some yards and finding the best performers that had the traits that we wanted, and having several of them and keeping that diversity and just letting them go out and do their thing. And so you don't have to be really dialed in. There's a lot of different ways to keep bees. It's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. Hey, Doug, you're very welcome. Hey, Yvonne, thanks for coming on tonight. Always good to see you on here. Yeah, that's right. Well, so as far as name tags, one thing we're going to do this year. So let me grab one real quick. Oh, me. So I thought I had some that had the badges on them, but so this is last year's Hive Life 2022. So the collars are based off of whatever the queen marking collar is for the year. So next year's collar is going to be red. And this next year, we're going to have everyone put in their state if they want to, and it'll be double sided. So, whichever way it's flipped, they'll be able to see your name, the state that you're from, and that helps people, buddy up. Like, whoa, hey, you're a Missouri beekeeper too. Where are you at? And then you can start building those relationships. And it's funny. I mean, those relationships sometimes can really pay off down the road. They have for me, anyways. Whew. I am starting to run out of gas here, folks. Shane Williams, hey, you're still on. Race day in Indy. Also, thanks. So he's saying thanks to the vets. Definitely a big thanks to the vets. My brother's actually here visiting. He's in the Air Force. He's stationed in Tucson. He's up for 10 days. So we've been having a blast. And he's not a beekeeper, not into bees. He says he'd rather dodge bullets than bees. And I almost believe him. He doesn't like bees at all. But I'm pretty proud of him, though. He's a staff sergeant, or maybe he just got promoted from staff sergeant. I can't remember. Something like that. And does helicopters and stuff like that. Really smart. And the thing of it is, he had a hard time reading when he was a kid. Now he's like instructing people on how to fly helicopters. So crazy, huh? It shows you what you can do when you want to. Hayden really has always loved. He got into Civil Air Patrol as a teenager and just loved the Air Force and all that kind of stuff. And he's pretty amazing. I'm pretty proud of him. All right, Pierce Beekeeping. Lots of West Coast people starting to come on. Hey, Edward, I hope you've sent that to not Natalie, Naomi. Maybe we'll see her at the conference. You never know. Whew, okay, my voice is going. And I thank you guys so much. Tonight has broke the record on the most donations that we've ever received. And everything tonight is going to the kid sponsorship program. I'm just guessing based off of what I'm looking at. We had $500 donated by Marianne and Larry Sears, who donated a ton at the silent auction too. So I think between all of that, I'd say we've sponsored full rides to, I don't know, 5 or 6 kids. And that's a lot. I mean, it's not just their tickets, it's their food, it's their hotel stays. All they have to do, and it takes care of their parent and their guardian too. So it's a lot. So thanks everybody for coming on. Man, this has just been insane. I had no clue. But thank you guys. God bless you. And we'll be seeing you in a live chat in the future where you can ask your beekeeping questions. I got to more of the beekeeping questions towards the beginning. And if you have any more, leave them below. Maybe I can get to them later. I'm going to go eat some dinner. See y'all later.